portfolio because part of my job is what really keeps me connected with the traditional world, so media, television, some of the other channels, etc., which we feel are increasingly perhaps less important, but in terms of efficacy, still very important in how the marketing mix works for brands. And there's a part of my job that actually demands that I be completely up to grips with the new technologies like blockchain. We heard a lot about artificial intelligence. We're doing a lot of work on analytics and predictive modeling, applying cognitive technologies to do continuous modeling for ROI on our brands, etc. But I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about today is this whole business of building brands. We're a company that relies on the strength of our brand to be able to make money for our stakeholders and shareholders. So essentially, if you look at the model that Unilever have, we are basically create a product advantage, which basically means that you have a superior product. If you're marketing a detergent, if you're marketing a shampoo, etc., which could sometimes be seen as pretty similar kind of products. But our edge lies in not only turning that product into a superior product, but also making sure that the brands under which those products go to market are actually seen as superior and closer to the consumers. The reality is that that business of making or building brands has changed dramatically over the past few years. Somebody talked about the fact that where we were 10 years ago, we wouldn't be 20 years from now. I said I'd actually say that where you were 10 years ago, you're not there now. And in fact, if you don't start making changes to your marketing and brand building models today, you're probably not going to survive the wave of change that we're doing. There's a saying in Unilever, which we use quite a lot, that the speed of change will never be this slow again. And I think that's something that we all got to keep in mind. There was a time that we could get away with something like this. I don't know if you can see, it's an ad for our ice cream which talks about the summer being in the weather, and somebody put that skin out there and forgot to take it off, and suddenly winter came and snowfall started. And imagine a consumer's response to a communication like that in their marketing even today. But it is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore stuff like that because earlier on, there was this outdoors, somewhere in a distant neighborhood from your offices, and you had no way of keeping an eye on whether that creative has been put down by the supplier or not. But today, you have digital media which can give you real-time signals of what your ad is doing, how is it being seen, what consumers are watching it, etc., etc. So pulling off these mistakes are no longer something that you're, as a marketer, allowed to do anymore. And I think partly because of these kinds of schoolboy and schoolgirl errors, there is an increasing, what I might call, cynicism towards brands within consumers as such. And if you, this was a piece of research Hala did globally. I'm not sure if Pakistan was a part of that, but I'm absolutely certain at least North Africa was. Imagine if you were in a business that actually makes money on the back of building good brands, and if you were to come across that research, it basically said that 75% of what you think is value for you is actually not value for you. People don't really care about those brands. And if they were to disappear for good, people wouldn't even notice. And that's a serious, serious state of affairs for anybody who's in the business of building brands. And to me, this actually says as much about consumer cynicism towards brands as much as it says about our ability to build brands in these changing dynamics and changing context, cultural and societal context we're living in. I mean, imagine, I'm not going to harp on about the fact that we've changed and these are the new technologies and digital media which is going to take on most of our lives, but just a decade ago, the world was very different. I mean, forget about consumers. I have difficulty keeping attention from some of you because you're constantly staring at your mobile screens. 10 years ago, those screens didn't exist. Twitter didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist, YouTube didn't exist, social media as a platform didn't exist. And of course, the way we go to market with our products has changed as well because e-commerce is a reality which we can't close our eyes to anymore. Even in markets like Pakistan, you've seen some of the mushrooming e-commerce startups which are legitimate high-volume businesses now. And it'll be any day now when you start to see big brands like Amazon. Alibaba was already thinking about it coming into the market as well. So, if you look at it from that perspective, technology has an amazing amount of impact on society. It has given power to the consumers, it has given a lifestyle that we didn't really have earlier on to consumers, etc. So in a way, we're living through perhaps some of the most fantastic times of our lives. But at the same time, if you see what's happening in the world otherwise, economically speaking, from a conflict point of view, or from the political divide that you see increasingly between the right and the left, it's also perhaps the worst of the times that we're living through in the history. And when brands and marketeers build their brands, they do not build them in boardrooms, staring at big, large LCD screens, listening to jingles and hi-fi songs. They build brands in the marketplace where the consumers are actually going through what the society is going through. And for anybody who's building brands, if you keep an eye on technology, you keep an eye on data and stuff, I think the fact that we're living through a completely different world is an equally important measure to keep account of. Otherwise, the brands become increasingly less relevant, as the research from Havas showed. We talk about the future. I was, talking about the fact that most of us speculate in the fact that we wouldn't be here in 10 years' time. I can tell you that you're already here. The future is already here. If you look at increasingly some of the most successful new brands, their way of building brands and building marketing programs is very different to how we, as marketers, have looked at building our brands traditionally. Personalization is increasingly an important factor. What facilitates personalization is technology. What facilitates personalization is data. And to be honest, in the world of advertising, not just here in Pakistan, but globally, I know of very few people who have actually totally embraced the world of technology and data to facilitate that sense of personalization for the consumers, be it from a brand communication perspective or from a product perspective. I'm going to show you an example of work a little later on that we've done a little, in this area. I think consumers have also become a bit more impatient than they were in the past. Their desire for instant gratification and a superior experience on their mobile screens and electronic screens is far greater than it ever was in the past. A lot of automation has actually given rise to the whole culture of instant gratification and personalization as well. So the way we organize businesses has also changed. The way we organize supply chains, the way we organize distribution chains has completely changed. We actually have, just to give you an example, we have a very interesting partnership in Middle East, North Africa, with a startup called InstaShop. InstaShop is an e-commerce platform, but they're really not an e-commerce platform. Let me explain what that is. InstaShop essentially is a demand aggregation platform. What they do is, on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, lying on your couch, they give you the ability to go through the shopping list on your mobile and order whatever groceries you need delivered through your local grocery store, and the grocery store does the delivery and the fulfillment. So InstaShop is essentially providing a consumer experience. We've heard a lot about consumer experience today, but InstaShop has made an entire business out of aggregating demand through a superior consumer experience, and have actually had amazing amount of success in the business. They roughly cover close to 15 to 20% of the general trade across GCC, which is a huge number. What we're doing with them is we're actually, in a partnership with them, we have access to the data in real time at Unilever. And what that gives us is the ability to know where our product is being picked up, which general store, which neighborhood, and if that product was not available on shelf at that point to sell at that point in time, what were consumers picking up instead? And using that data, we're able to automatically send off a replenishment of the shelf in real time. So that automation that I'm talking about from a business process perspective has led to have a tremendous amount of impact on how you actually do business as a marketer. Immersive shopping experiences. I'm sure you guys have heard about the fact that InstaShop is thinking of launching their own e-commerce app, because they found that the conversion rates on their e-commerce advertising on InstaShop are ridiculously high. I'm sure you've been alluded into one USB, whatever, power bank or something or the other, or that is actually on your Instagram. And because it's such an immersive experience, you can instantly get pulled into buying or purchasing that product, and you can't sort of find out more about that product as well. Another interesting aspect of companies like Unilever is that historically, we built our business on scale, and we built our businesses on massive infrastructure that we developed across the world. I mean, we're global companies and stuff, but that that strength that we consider with our strength is actually having a complete rethink in how businesses actually use scale and leverage and their massive manufacturing facilities and programs. To give you an example, in the past 2 to 3 years, globally, we've done about 21, 22 acquisitions of brands like Dollar Shave Club, Murad, Dermalogica, T2, etc. Most of these brands are direct-to-consumer brands, which meaning that they either go to consumer directly through an e-commerce channel or they have their own retail presence. And majority of those brands, actually all of those brands, do not own a single factory. Most of them outsource the production to a third party, somewhere in Korea or China, and they package the products and they sell directly to consumers. What is their edge? Their edge lies in building the consumer experience and being able to get to that consumers with that that strength of the brand that they're building. So that brand building, if you look at something like a Dollar Shave Club, for instance, I'm not sure how many of you are actually familiar with that brand. That brand built their entire business on the back of a viral video, social media video. Their entire business. That company started out about 10 years ago, peaked at, before we bought them for close to $1 billion, they were peaking at a $450 million revenue just in the US, and now they're expanding globally. So, marketing, the business of marketing has completely changed. As a result of that, the way you build brands has completely changed as well. Our response to those changes, in most cases, has been just sweat and stretch whatever you have right now. Try and make that work, and it'll probably start to work. Imagine it was like the first TV ad. It was a radio ad with a picture on the screen. This is exactly what we're doing with digital. We're putting our TV ads on Facebook and YouTube, knowing very well that a consumer is not going to live through that harmony playing for the first 15 seconds of build-up of an emotion before they actually press the skip button on YouTube, or before they roll their thumbs up on the Facebook to actually completely ignore your ad. There's a saying that thumbs roll faster than the brains can think these days, and this is a reality. You have very little chance of making your product visible if you don't make an immediate impact in your pieces of communication. We don't seem to be caring too much about that these days. We talked a lot about data. There was a question in the room on Cambridge Analytica as well. What Cambridge Analytica did, in my opinion, to the business of brand and marketing is showed us what really is possible with that data. We come to think of it. What they did was misuse of data because they didn't have permission on privacy of the users, and they misused permissions from Facebook and how their data was being used. But what they were doing was essentially the holy grail of marketing. Right? Being able to reach consumers with a tailored, personalized, effective messages in order to have an impact so high that not just in terms of brand purchase, you're able to swing their opinions from a presidential candidate perspective, or an opinion on the fact whether Britain should remain as part of Europe or not. So that field of data, if that can power that, and if like Stephen was saying this morning, if that data is not sent to part of the brand communication and marketing strategy, we have very little hope of surviving. Consumers are also, by virtue of that access they have to the world, pretty much living their lives very differently. We used to see the world through our two own eyes, but right now we see the world through the eyes of our screens, not directly. This is a very interesting picture. This is when the first presidential debate prior to the last US election happened between Senator Clinton and now President Trump. And when she came out, she had a whole fan base, waiting for her to shake hands with her, and she wanted to address them standing on that podium, but nobody was interested in looking at her. They were all just looking backward in their phones because all they wanted was a selfie with her in the background. And that's the kind of experience consumers are looking for. You have no hope if you just want to be in your face and want to make us brands notice at that level. Hillary Clinton can't do that, so good luck to most of the brands. There's another very important factor, which is actually partly the title of my presentation as well, is the need for brands to be purposeful and sincere in their approach to marketing to consumers. This is a poster from the Real Beauty campaign we launched on Dove. This was, I think, good 10 to 12 years ago. It was for the first time we decided as a brand that we're not going to use models in our advertising. We're going to use real women. I'm going to advocate for real beauty, basically meaning that we think of beauty as much an outside job and a parent's job as it is an inside job. You have to be able to feel beautiful to be able to look beautiful. And that changed the game for how beauty brands are marketed all across the world. And I think Dove, on the back of that, became one of the biggest Unilever brands in our portfolio as well. And to date, it stands out as a piece of work where if you're looking to build purpose into your brands, there are very few examples that come up in the world. I'm a fan of a few other brands that have done it, like Patagonia as well. But Dove remains a hallmark of brand, a mass market brand that started on that trend of building a purposeful communication with the consumers. Our ecosystem is also changing. You have a lot of agencies in the room. This is the list of top 10 agencies from 2017, the ad age list of top 10 agencies from US. Now, while US is not like a 100% indicator of how the markets in the rest of the world behave, but do you know that 4 out of these top 10 agencies are not even agencies? They're consulting firms. Accenture being on top, WPP being last. And do you know why that is happening? Why that is happening? Why is that business moving from agencies into big consultancies? Because consultancies were partly technology companies, and they had enough investments in data and technology infrastructure to embrace the change of data and technology that we're talking about today. I mean, Adobe moved from being a Photoshop builder to a completely marketing technology platform. Look at the stock price in the past 2.5 years. It's shot through the roof because they're able to provide the technology infrastructure, holistic technology infrastructure to brands, which they need today to be able to market their brands, etc. So this is a sign of times, guys. I mean, we know that the agency businesses have been thinking long and hard about how to reshape their models and whether it is too much fragmentation in how we provide skills, specialist skill sets to the market. We have a search agency, we have an activation agency, we have a content agency, we have a media agency, then we have a brand agency, and the client, by the time, is able to get everybody into the same room. The launch timelines have already passed. And by the time the work comes back, and by the time that harmonization across the work happens, there's no need for that harmonization to take place in most cases. So that, again, is an amazing amount of change that's going to swoop through a lot of us, existence, in my opinion. How do we tackle, some of these things that I've talked about? How do we sort of deal with some of these things that people leave? I'm going to basically spend the next 2 or 3 minutes explaining how we do it, and I'm going to show you 2 examples of what we've done as a result of how we're trying to deal with some of these changes in the past. So we have something called a 5C framework at Unilever. And that 5C framework sounds very simple, sometimes becomes very, very complicated to understand and practice. But what we have at the heart of that 5C framework is the whole concept of consumer journeys. I think Dr. Farah from Lums also talked about that concept of consumer journeys becoming increasingly complicated just now. But if you look at it, what is a consumer journey? A consumer journey essentially is your ability to see a consumer move from one point of interest to media or entertainment to the other, etc. And digital actually provides for that feedback of data very easily. You can actually see if a consumer searched for a hair care brand. From that search, the user went to the website of an XYZ brand and then read what they did at that website, etc. You're able to actually serve advertising, pinpointing specialist touch points within that consumer journey. What makes mapping of that consumer journey is the whole concept of data that lies at the heart of it. What we do once we identify the consumer journey is we plot touch points at each stage of the consumer journey, and that's the part of the work that we do as part of our Connect that you see in the framework. Content is where we identify what content do we need to show to consumers at those specific touch points. And then we have the commerce which is all about making sure that whatever we do from a communication perspective drives energy towards purchase from a consumer point of view. Sounds simple, but it's very difficult sometimes to get it right. And in most cases, even we on 100% of brands do not get this model right all the time. What I'm going to show you as an example of something that actually looks at this consumer journey very, very interestingly is a case study of a launch of one of our flagship brand platforms called Dirt is Good. When we launched that platform in the Middle East, our biggest struggle or biggest barrier to entry to that market was not the fact that our esteemed competition had roughly 70 to 75% market share, and the retailers were not willing to listen to us. Our biggest hindrance was that the consumers actually didn't think dirt is good. Middle East is a very religious market, as we are, as Pakistan. Thinking of dirt as good simply wasn't allowed in the society. So we had to get over that mental barrier within the minds of the consumers to be able to launch that brand proposition. We're very proud of the work that team did. It won a WARC Global Media Prize. It won the WARC Strategy Prize. It won 2 golds at the Effies. It won a silver at the Global Effies in New York, and it was shortlisted for 4 trophies at the Cannes Lions the year when we launched it. So I'll just play the video, a case study for you. Can we play this video?
This may be the dullest ad in the history of Cannes, but all 23 hours of it were dull for a good reason. You see, we're the least active kids in history. That's because we spend less than an hour a day playing outside and getting dirty, which is also bad news for people who make washing powder, like Barrow. So to help them out and wake parents up to the fact that we are the least active kids ever, we created the longest live stream in history. All 23 hours of it showed one of us doing what we do best, absolutely nothing. Well, apart from sleeping, playing video games, checking in on social, and watching Netflix. We also made a 7-hour video about screen time, and a 4-hour one about TV time. Parents spent an average of 5 minutes watching the ads, which makes it one of the most viewed live streams on YouTube and Facebook to date. But more importantly, the ads highlighted the inactive lifestyles of kids today, which ignited a fierce debate online. In just 23 hours, the campaign received 5.9 million interactions. Even leading TV channels picked up on the story. With millions of parents debating the inactivity of kids today, we switched from provoking them to helping them. We teamed up with child psychologists who responded online in real time, explaining the importance of active play. Webisodes were created with medical professionals to help parents overcome key challenges, and ambient messaging in playgrounds drove parents online to know more about the campaign. Finally, we turned eBay into an advertising channel by giving away kids' swings and slides for free to help encourage more outdoor play. By the end of the campaign, 82% of parents voted to get their kids outside more often. Now that's good news for both us kids and washing powder brands.
The second case study that I'm going to show you is actually that whole concept of personalization at scale that I was talking about, using data to be able to deliver relevant messages to the consumer. We did it last year. Again, very proud of this work because it needed a completely different approach to how we look at building up a campaign. We did it in a very short time, 12 hours. And this also won a gold at the Effies this year, and this was also given a bronze score in the category of data-driven marketing. Please play the video.
Ramadan is a Super Bowl in the Middle East. The holy month is a busy time, filled with family gatherings, non-stop congregations, and many joyful moments. Because of the social culture this month, the risk of germs spreading and people falling ill rises drastically. The skin cleansing brand wanted to prevent germs from spreading during the spiritual month and gain a sizable market share. Introducing the preventive pre-rolls. Data reveal that beside the threat of germs, online consumption of videos also soars high during Ramadan, especially on YouTube, which sees a huge peak in its average watch time. We decided to tap into this and talk to people in moments that matter. We partnered with Google and created a command center that monitored real-time social conversations and behavior. We spotted the biggest trends and served people with hyper-personalized contextual videos, reminding them to protect themselves from germs before sharing moments with their loved ones. AI tools, content creation, precise targeting, all within 12 hours. Here's how we did it. The micro-targeting strategy identified 7 key moments: food, family, entertainment, fitness, sports, gaming, and makeup, which the AI further broke down based on different variables. Covering demographics, specific interests, intents, keywords, and time of search were taken into account, and 43 targeted moments were created. We then developed 45 different creative assets that complemented the conversation seamlessly. For example, a mother of two looking for cake recipes during Ramadan would be served with this pre-roll. A teenager searching for quick pre-iftar workout ideas would be shown this. The real-time turnaround improved the reach of the campaign massively. The pre-rolls achieved an unprecedented 92.12% view-through rate. We gained 4.1% market share in the hand wash segment and improved brand relevance by 3% in 1 quarter. We also saw a minute in ad recall of 14.3% and favorability of 12.7%. Lifebuoy Superfast Hand Wash won Ramadan conversations, while Germs lost the battle.
This really is, for me, thank you so much. Thank you so much to the Extreme Council of Marketing Social in Pakistan. Thank you, Salman. And if you have any questions, I'm sure we'll get some bit of time after Salman's presentation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Moody. Theme of this year's Marcon is marketing in the digitalized world. And I've been asked, I've been given 10 minutes in a conference, about one full day conference, where everyone has been talking about nothing else but digital. And I've been given 10 minutes to talk about something which is 400 years old, and which, despite what the prophets of doom have been saying since this morning, will not only survive this hyped up age of digitalization, but will thrive in whatever comes nextization. That is a good old newspaper. I've been a newspaper man most of my life. I started my career in advertising and then moved on to General Local, which is the largest newspaper, media, multimedia company today. I love and breathe newspapers. The feel and smell of paper and ink still turns me on, despite whatever a lot of people think it makes me tick. But in this ever-evolving media landscape, the key challenge for the newspapers is to seamlessly connect offline, which is the print product, with the online. So the window of pain, what I call the window of pain for newspapers, in our part of the world, and I'm sure in other countries as well, is the fact that younger audiences, the younger generation, is getting disconnected with the printed product, as they do not find newspapers glamorous or sexy. This is the primary crisis in the print ecosystem, and we, the newspapers, media companies, need to find opportunity in this crisis. In this crisis, in order to become relevant to the younger generation, to the millennials, to the generation Zs and Xs and Y or whatever you call them, and bring them back to our fold and try to recreate something that has been like a habit for generations. So, ladies and gentlemen, what can we do to make newspapers sexier and glamorous? I'm going to talk about, today I will be sharing with you 3 innovations that we at General have done to make newspapers more relevant to general audiences and to connect the offline with the online. By introducing these initiatives and innovations, we've tried to connect the general audiences with the newspaper, general audiences who were losing touch with the newspapers. And these initiatives were proven to be game changers for our organization and for some other newspaper companies as well. These three specific initiatives are QR codes um, in the young classifieds, augmented reality in augmenting headlines, newspaper headlines with television headlines, and creating a virtual reality experience for consumers reading newspapers. Let me start with classifieds and introduction of QR codes in classifieds. Young Classified is the largest classified platform in the country, despite whatever reporters have been claiming for years. We continue to claim, but Young Classified is the largest classified platform in the country. With annual revenues exceeding 600 billion, the important classified categories as other newspapers and platforms are, of course, automobiles, real estate, education, patrimonials, jobs, and so on. Jump Classified is a 20 to 24-page special section which is published every Sunday in the Jump newspaper of Pakistan's top cities, representing 70% of the urban consumer purchasing power in Pakistan. The advent of online classified portals has had an adverse impact not only on Jump Classifieds but also on classifieds of other newspapers as well. In fact, there are actually just two classified platforms in the print and a volume decline of almost 20%. The biggest challenge for us was free versus paid ads. Classifieds in a newspaper and in Young is not free, it is paid, and it's premium priced. Dynamic interactive color visuals versus static black and white plain text. So what did we do? We introduced QR codes in the news key categories of real estate and automobiles to make consumer experience more dynamic and vibrant. And we delivered value to the consumer by adding video, audio, and photo features to the existing print product. With 10 QR codes, all you had to do was to upload videos or photos of your home or car or whatever and send it to us through either WhatsApp or email and enable us to create QR codes for the print product. This is, I'm just going to share the classified campaign with you, but before there are two videos. One is a tutorial video, and then there is a commercial that I'll be showing along with the ads and campaign that we did.
पाकिस्तान में पहली बार जंग क्लासिफाइड लाया क्यूआर कोड की जदीद सहूलत अब आपके इश्तिहार के साथ दिया गया क्यूआर कोड स्कैन करने पर सार्फिन देख सकेंगे तस्वीर और वीडियोस यानी अब हर डील और भी यकीनी हर बार यकीनी डील हासिल करने के लिए जंग क्लासिफाइड में अपना इश्तिहार बुक करवाएं आम क्लासिफाइड इश्तिहार के चार्जेस और क्यूआर फीस जमा करवाने के बाद बुकिंग एजेंट क्यूआर इश्तिहार की बुकिंग का तस्दीकी एसएमएस आपको भेजेगा जिसमें इश्तिहार से मुताल्लिक बुनियादी मालूमात इश्तिहार का रेफरेंस नंबर पासवर्ड और वीडियो या तस्वीर अपलोड करने के लिए वेब लिंक भी फराहम किया जाएगा इस वेब लिंक पर क्लिक करें और अपने इश्तिहार से मुताल्लिक वीडियो या तस्वीर अपलोड करें जंग की जानिब से मंजूरी के बाद ये इश्तिहार अखबार में क्यूआर कोड के साथ छप जाएगा और लोग इस कोड को स्कैन करके अपलोड की गई वीडियो या तस्वीर देख सकेंगे जंग क्लासिफाइड बरसों का कमाल
Tags
यकीन डील है सिर्फ जल्द क्लासिफाइड से। अब पाकिस्तान में पहली बार क्यूआर कोड के साथ, यानी क्यूआर कोड स्कैन करें और तस्वीरें या वीडियो दोनों देखें। खरीदो फरोख्त में पाकिस्तान भर की पहली चॉइस, जल्द क्लासिफाइड, बरसों का एतबार।
What has happened in these 2 years since we introduced this in 2016? Our revenues have gone up by 30%. We not only regained what we lost in 2015, but we improved on that, and our volume has also increased by 7%. So we bounced back, we are back on track, and will continue to do so. From QR codes, we move on to regular innovation that we did, which is augmented reality. Augmented reality is relatively a new concept in Pakistan. Jam developed its own augmented reality app, the Jam Real, towards the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, and this was the first time that any media house in Pakistan made use of augmented reality. Jam Real added value to the news by augmentizing content as well as monetizing it. All you have to do is to scan the headline on the Jump newspaper, headlines in Jump newspaper, and you move on to the same footage on Jump News, and you can watch that there. Thus, integrating offline with online, not only providing an experience to the consumer, but also monetize this by getting advertising and sponsorship for it.
अमेरिकी महकमे खारजा में ब्रीफिंग के दौरान तर्जुमान मार्टोना ने कहा कि कश्मीर पर
And so on. So the newspaper goes live every day. It is not just the static newspaper that you read. What you do is you scan the headline, you go on the same story in the same news on the Geo News, and can hear it and watch it as well. We also advertise content. For instance, we did this with PSL, where PSL stories were provided in the news.
This HBO PSL Sports News is brought to you by HBO.
So you just scan the news story, and you went on to watch it on Geo Super. This is another example of how we can augmentize content. For instance, let's say Nescafe content is there, and you can actually augmentize it. You can look at the content, it will take you to the Nestle's sort of native advertising in print. Another example, of course, is how you can do Coca-Cola. You can actually just scan the ad and download the entire episodes of Coke Studio. So, what has happened with Jam augmented reality product that we launched about a year and a half, 2 years ago? So far, we have 110,000 downloads, but on an average, 75,000 scans a day. That is a very good opportunity for people who are looking to augmentize their content or looking for augmentizing their advertising. Third innovation is virtual reality. VR introduced virtual reality product in mid-2017. The year marks not only 70 years of Pakistan, but also 70 years of Jam in Pakistan. Although Jam is an 80-year-old brand, this year marks 80 years of Jam. It started in New Delhi in 1939. But it's 70 years of Jam in Pakistan, because in 1947 it moved to Pakistan and started publishing in Karachi in October. So this was 70 years of Jam in Pakistan and 70 years of Pakistan. We gave our readers a virtual gallery of our front pages from these 70 years. So they could, we call it Pakistan ki Kahani, Jam ki Zabani. We called it Jam ki Kahani, Pakistan ki Zabani. We asked the readers to download the Jam VR app, scan the key, and experience 70 years of Pakistan through headlines of the Jam newspaper. Gallery had all important events and happenings that make up our history. Most of these headlines dealt with audio or video clips as well. For instance, there was speeches of Qaid Azam with relevant audio clips of Qaid Azam's speech. There were speeches of Mr. Bhutto, Dr. Bhutto, Mr. Rashi, Pervez Musharraf, Ayub Khan, and Prime Minister Imran Khan. And of course, there was video clip of the 1992 World Cup victory that Pakistan achieved under the captaincy of now our Prime Minister, Mr. Imran Khan. So it was like walking through a picture gallery of history. You could actually go in to the virtual gallery and go through your entire history, particularly for the younger audiences who are not that connected with our own history. This was a great opportunity for them to review, look at what Pakistan has been, how we achieved the country, how we struggled for it, and how we have come where we have.
अब देख सकते हैं, देखने के लिए जमीन पर मौजूद निशाना आपकी मदद मिलेगी। ऑरेंज निशान बताएगा कि आप कहां देख रहे हैं। अपना सफर शुरू करने के लिए स्टार्ट की तरफ देखें।
There is a narration for every headline.
1948 पाकिस्तान पार्लियामेंट में वजीर खजाना ने आइंदा माली साल के लिए बजट पेश कर दिया।
And there is not only narration but also audio guidance.
3 जुलाई सन 1948 सिर्फ इस्लाम ही दुनिया को तबाही और बर्बादी से बचा सकता है। कायद आज़म का ऐलान।
Qaid Azam's speech at the opening of the State Bank. And so on. So, our innovations have been recognized by games worldwide. These are 10 awards global awards that we have won in the last 2 years. INMA INMA is the International News Media Association, BAN is the World Association of Newspapers, and so on and so forth. So we got recognition globally for whatever initiatives and innovations we have done. So ladies and gentlemen, who says newspapers are bad? So people who have been talking about the death of newspapers since this morning, I think are in good company. Because for one, there is Fawad Chaudhry who talks about the death of traditional media. So I believe these people are in good company. But we don't. We don't believe that newspapers are dead or dying. We believe that newspapers are alive and will continue to thrive. The key challenge for us, the newspapers, lies in recreating the habit of loyalty that has been hallmark of newspapers, not only for decades, but for centuries. But use innovation to connect the offline and the online and to create a connection, or let me say, reconnect the younger audience with this habit. And make the newspapers sexier and glamorous for them so that they find it more appealing for themselves. So, pick up a copy of your favorite newspaper today, which I'm sure is junk, and experience these exciting innovations. As Asad was saying a little while ago, that the future is here. So if the future is here, newspapers are very much part of that future, because they are there printing every day, 365 days a year. And for any information or help that you may need on augmentizing or virtualizing your advertising, you can contact me or my team which is here today. Thank you very much. And as we say, Jai Jai.
Thank you, Mr. Sohab Ali and Mr. Asad al-Rahman, for your very insightful presentations. I've been told that we have time for one question. Who's the one? I see someone's hand. Do I see him? Oh, Is that a hand going up there? No? No questions? Are you saving your questions for after the break? Or? Okay, we have a question here. One taken.
My name is Abdul Khan. सर प्रिंट जंग तो कभी बंद नहीं होगा, लेकिन प्रिंट की जो जंग की क्वालिटी है वो शायद उसको बंद करवा देगी। एक्चुअली आपके जो आपको जवाब में सवाल ये करूँगा जो अखबार की जो प्रिंट क्वालिटी है वो रोज ब रोज
सर मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन करता हूँ, बहुत आसान मसला है।
हम जैसे लोग जो 50 साल से ऊपर तो वो गरीब का चश्मा लगाना पसंद नहीं करते।
एक्सप्लेनेशन सुन लीजिए, मैं बता देता हूँ। मसला ये है कि अखबार एक तादाद में छपता है और अखबार 1:30 बजे 2 बजे असद साहब यहाँ बैठेंगे, अखबार के आदमी रहे, उन्होंने जिक्र नहीं किया, इन्होंने अपना करियर मेरे हमारे साथ शुरू किया था दिल्ली से अखबार में, उनको पता है कि अखबार कैसे छपता है। होता यह है कि 1:30 बजे 2 बजे अखबार जिसको हम कहते हैं इस डेट में बैठे क्या हो जाता है, उसको हम छपने के लिए फेंकते हैं। जब छपने के लिए जाता है 3 साढ़े 3 बजे प्रिंटिंग शुरू होती है और 3 साढ़े 3 बजे से लेकर 4:30 5 बजे तक अखबार को बंद करना होता है। हमने भी अखबार हमने छपना तकरीबन 8 लाख कॉपी, मतलब कराची में 2.5-3 लाख कॉपी छापते हैं। जब हम 2.5-3 लाख कॉपी छापेंगे तो हमारे पास भी वही 1 घंटा है, तो हमारी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी ऑब्वियसली बाय द टाइम हम उस क्वालिटी को रीच करेंगे तो हमारे लिए मुश्किल हो जाएगा। हमें अखबार टाइम पर देना है, मतलब फर्स्ट क्वालिटी नॉट द प्रिंटिंग, हमारी फर्स्ट क्वालिटी का अखबार टाइम पर कंज्यूमर को मिल जाए। तो हमें 2.5 लाख 3 लाख कॉपी छपनी है और किसी दूसरे अखबार में जिसमें 15,000 16,000 छपनी है उसके लिए बहुत आसान है, उसके बाद 1.5 घंटा 15,000 कॉपी छपे और बड़े आराम से निकल जाए। ये मसला है। और दूसरी चीज जो है ना कि आज जब आप मुझसे ये मार्केटिंग का फोरम है तो हम जो लीडरशिप के अलावा जब आप लोग किसी की बात करते हैं तो स्टार के बात करते हैं, आप जब मुझसे बात करते हैं तो आप मुझसे स्टार खरीदते हैं, आप मुझसे मेरी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी नहीं खरीदते, मेरे आईबॉल खरीदते हैं। वो मैं आपको लेवल करता हूँ, अच्छी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी हो या बुरी प्रिंटिंग क्वालिटी हो। थैंक यू।
Thank you. All right. It is with great pleasure that I would like to invite Mr. Sikandar Sultan Sahab, Chairman of Shan Foods, to please present the mementos to our speakers. So first we will begin with Mr. Asad ul Rahman. And now Mr. Sarmad A. Ali. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Just an announcement here. There is a vehicle that's been parked incorrectly. The license plate number is BGJ562. It is being picked up as we speak. So whoever's vehicle that belongs to, you may want to rush downside and move it. Okay, moving on. There's a slight change in the program. We will be having the session or presentation on storytelling that was to be delivered by Bharat Avalani later on in the program during the closing session. Now we will move to discussing or talking about the challenges facing the agency business, a subject I know that many of you are interested in since that's where you work. I would like to invite Mr. Shoaib Qureshi who is the CEO of Bullseye DDB Group, to the stage to deliver this presentation. Mr. Shoheb Qureshi. Mr. Shoheb is an IBA marketing graduate, class of '94, with a marketing and advertising experience of over 24 years. He started his career with Procter & Gamble in brand management and later moved on to the agency side and started his own non-traditional agency, Bullseye, in 2002. In 2011, DDB Worldwide joined hands with him to set up a separate creative agency, BEDDB. And just last year, he acquired stakes into Symmetry, a leading digital agency. The Bullseye DDB Group, under his leadership, has grown tremendously and now enjoys a very unique position in our agency landscape with strong presence in advertising activation and digital spaces. He is the only speaker we have called from the agency side today. Please welcome on stage Shoheb Qureshi, who will be speaking on the challenges facing the agency business.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to all of the participants present here today. You saw just what happened 2 minutes ago. There's a change in plan and suddenly I've been called on stage. That's the agency. That's the business we're in. We are always thrown at surprise, we're always thrown some sort of a challenge. That's the life that we live. And I'm not surprised, I always love to come on stage and talk. So the topic that I've been given today is the challenges facing the agency business. I know all day long you've heard all marketers, all brand people, all clients talking about the challenges facing them. We're in the agency business, yes, all those challenges are faced by us as well because we work for them. But today I will be talking about this one very, very important challenge that only the agency faces. But before I get into that, I want to just set a few things very clear here. We say the agency business. What is the agency business? What do we do? Now, again, trust me, the agency business is the most misunderstood business in the world. If you ask anyone, what do we do? Everyone will think that probably we're like James Bond or we're like these people who have a great life and we're flying there, doing this, doing that. That's what the world thinks we do. And in fact, interestingly, just 2 weeks back, I was at Karachi airport. The FIA people were standing there and they asked me, what do you do? I said, I work for the agency. They said, please. So, in a way, this is what the agency life is thought to be. That's what people believe that that's what we do. But the reality of what we actually do every day is something like this. We actually are doing rescue acts. We actually are into a coal mine, trying to salvage somebody, find some coals, find some diamonds, look for something, but it's like a rescue act. We are always on the rescue. We are the 911 for the client. That's who we are. But we have another challenge. If you ask me what do the client's CEO that we work for, all the clients that we work for, their CEOs, what do they think of us? They think this is what we do. They think we are putting their money into the toilet flush and flushing it every day. That's the business that the agency is in. So we have a great challenge. We know we have a great challenge. But the truth is that we are in no business of our own. We are nothing. We do nothing. That's the reality of the matter. We only are looking for clients and brands that we can own, that we can work for as if they were our own brands, and then giving our best, our hearts, our home, our souls, our everything to helping those brands grow. That is what we do. We just serve clients. That's the purpose of our existence. And interestingly, if you look at us, which is the agency and the marketing functions at any client, we actually are the same size of the two coins. We're no different. We may be an outsider who comes in and works for you, and we're always considered the outsider, but we really are the same size of the coin that we actually call marketing. But at the heart of our existence lies two very, very important things that all brands and clients rely on. One is creativity and ideas. You're always looking for creativity and ideas for different marketing plan elements. That's where the agency comes in. And you need the arms and the legs and the body and the physical manual effort to actually get those marketing plans executed. That's where the agency comes in. We, as an agency, and in fact all the agencies here in Pakistan and anywhere in the world, we all have many clients. Many, many clients. Some have 10, 20, 30, 40, 100. But only a few really get the best of us. Same agency, different clients, but only a few really get the best of us. Ever wondered why? We create so many campaigns. If you look at the agency showreel, there will be so many things, but only some truly win with consumers. Ever wondered why? So today, all I want to do is just give you all a peek into the agency heart. Because we are creative people, we are sensitive people, and we have a heart. And that is what I will show you and open up for you today. I'm not talking about my agency. Like the introduction said, I'm the only agency person standing on stage here today talking at this marketing conference. I am representing all the agencies that are working here in Pakistan, be it creative, digital, media, activation, whatever. And I will be speaking the heart out of all the agencies that are trying to serve all the clients here. So be ready. But I will be only focusing on just one challenge. I will not talk about all the things that we talked about because, like I said, the clients have talked about it. And whatever challenges clients face, we face because we work with their brands. The only challenge I will be talking about today is the client, which only the agency faces. And this is the most important thing that I will be talking about, and the only thing today. But before I get into that, let me just make one thing very clear. We love all our clients. Regardless of what they do to us, what happens to us, which I will show you, but we love all our clients. Some we genuinely love, really love, genuinely love. And some we have no choice but to love. Because at the end of the day, we have to feed our own stomachs, our agencies, people's stomachs, and that's life. So, like I said, there is no business of our own. Any agency that starts with ground zero, and we go out, start to looking for a client. And all we want are just three things. As you can see in this graph, every agency wants some creative freedom. Every agency wants to be paid because obviously they're doing something for the brands and the clients. And every agency wants reasonable deadlines. That is it. We just ask for three things. And it all starts with the agency pitch for a client. So agency has started new agencies, so we're looking. So there's this thing called the agency pitch, where 4, 5, 6, 7. These days there's this whole tendency of calling all the country's agencies, 15, 17. There was a pitch last year, 18 agencies were called for that pitch. So, but the pitch is the high point of the life of the agency. Usually 2 weeks, 4 weeks are given to us, whereby, trust me, every agency in this country puts in their heart, their soul, they burn themselves up. But they give in their best. Whatever best they can do, they put it out at this pitch. But the main thing here is that even at that pitch, I think Allah Ta'ala ne kaha ki nishaniyan aap logon ke liye samne la dein. The pitch starts with, the pitch is free. Every agency, trust me, these days needs to spend something like 5 lakhs to 1 million rupees to create a great pitch. They will do the consumer research, they will do this, they will do that, they will do whatever it takes, work hard for 1 month for free, and come and present to you for the pitch. Globally, agencies now are being paid for the pitch. But here in Pakistan, no. It's a free thing. If you want a business, prove for free that you can do the job for us. But we still do it. We come and we pitch hard, we try our best. And one successful agency or maybe 2, 3 are shortlisted. And suddenly we get a call or we get an email whereby the news is thrown to us that, wow, we have shortlisted your great agency. However, that news is also short-lived. What happens next is that they tell us that news in person and hand us over to the purchasing department or the procurement department. These are people, if I'm working for a biscuit company, these are people who buy आटा, गंदम, चीनी, नमक, बिस्किट बनाने के लिए. उनके हवाले हमें कर दिया जाता है कि भाई ये आपका रेट तय करेंगे. आई एम अ सेंसिटिव पर्सन, ऑल एजेंसीज हियर आर सेंसिटिव, बट जिन लोगों के हवाले हमें किया जाता है ना, उससे बेहतर हमें जेल में डाल दें, ज़्यादा बेहतर है। लेकिन चलें, because we are in no business of our own, we want the business, we get into the hands of your agency procurements and purchasing, और फिर वो रेट तय करती है जिसमें गधा घोड़ा सब बराबर हो जाता है, there is no difference। उस रेट पे काम करने को अगर आप तैयार हैं, तो then you can get into the next stage, which is you will be called to a dinner meeting or maybe a meeting with the client CEO or something like that। और वहाँ पे हमें फिर एक और अच्छी खबर सुनाई जाती है कि बहुत जबरदस्त, हमें कोई कुछ नहीं करने, अच्छी सी एजेंसी हायर कर ली है, but just one little thing that you should know कि we have a very nice payment terms of something called 120 days, जिसमें आपको इंशाल्लाह हम will pay you। हम कुछ नहीं बोलते because we are in no business of our own, we need to get the business and we move on। चलिए, सब कुछ हुआ, क्लाइंट हाथ में आ गया है और काम शुरू करने का वक्त आता है। लेकिन हुआ क्या, अभी तक देखिए बिस्मिल्लाह होने से पहले ही पार हो चुकी है, दैट इज व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, ठीक है। लेकिन कोई बात नहीं, हम दिल वाले लोग इतने खड़े होते हैं, वी मूव इन, वी से ओके ओके, गिव अस द चैलेंजेस, क्या करना है, कौन सी टीम्स हैं, प्लीज शेयर करें। फिर हमें आना शुरू होती है मजे मजे की टीम्स, एंड दैट वी रियली एंजॉय, हां ट्रस्ट मी, रियली एंजॉय। और हर तरह की होती है, मतलब फॉर एग्जांपल इज हियर, जिसमें मतलब जस्ट थिंग इज सेड, अनदर एग्जांपल इज हियर, जिसमें मतलब दुनिया की हर चीज बस एक काम में डालनी होती है, हर चीज जो कुछ हो सकता है इसमें बस पैक कर दें, वो भी हमें आता है, नो प्रॉब्लम, वी विल टेक ऑन दैट ड्रीम। और भी बड़े मजे मजे की ड्रीम्स आती है, इसको बाकी बड़ा एंजॉय भी करते हैं और अपनी पूरी कोशिश करते हैं उसमें अच्छा काम कर सकें, एंड दैट पार्ट इज टेकन केयर ऑफ, क्योंकि पर बाकी ड्रीम्स आ गए, हमें काम करना है। बट राइट आफ्टर द ड्रीम एंड इवन वेल बिफोर द डेडलाइन, you know what happens? I'll tell you what happens. There are some clients who like what I will call the guided missile attached to the brief. वो brief के साथ वो clients भी हमारे साथ आ जाते हैं, because they want to help us create what needs to be created, because they want to help us in our work, और वो आ जाते हैं। अब brief आई नहीं है ना, आजकल डिजिटल वर्ल्ड है, बड़ा अच्छा WhatsApp बड़ा अच्छा कामयाब चल रहा है, तो एक एग्जांपल मैं आपको यहाँ पे दिखाता हूँ। मतलब brief all we're asking for is a reasonable deadline. नहीं, deadline कुछ भी हो, the guided missile is after us, and they want the work done in as little time as possible. कुछ guided missiles तो ऐसे होते हैं कि वो हमारे ऑफिस तक पहुंच जाते हैं, आके क्रिएटर के अंदर घुस के बैठ के सिस्टम पे बैठ के वो बनवा के छोड़ेंगे। कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है, हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते, टाइम इज टाइम, लेकिन हम उसको ही बर्दाश्त करते हैं, सब कुछ वो करते हैं। लेकिन क्लाइंट्स को एक चीज रियलाइज करनी चाहिए, दिस इज द टाइम, ठीक है। क्लाइंट्स की कैंपेन और दुल्हन का जोड़ा आखिरी दिन क्या होता है, और वो होगा 100 साल से हम लोग कर रहे हैं और अगले 100 साल भी करते रहेंगे। ट्रस्ट अस, गिव अस स्पेस, बिलीव इन अस, टेंशन ना दें प्लीज, क्योंकि ऑलरेडी बिस्मिल्लाह ही टेंशन हो चुकी है हमारी, वो स्टेज भी गुजर जाता है। Then comes the agency presentation and client feedback time. ये भी बड़ा important part होता है for agency's good performance. We work on the brief, we come back, there's a whole panel sitting in front of us और presentation time शुरू होता है, और फिर जो feedbacks मिलना शुरू होती है। अब आप imagine करें, आप लोगों को मैं openly कहता हूँ, घर पे जाके अपनी मियाँ बीवियों को ये feedback देके देखिएगा, वहाँ से आपको क्या जवाब मिलता है। लेकिन agency हर feedback सुनती है, वो हर फीडबैक सुनती है और आपकी बात सुन के उसको बेहतर करने की कोशिश करती है। फीडबैक कैसे होती है मैं आपको दिखाता हूँ, दिस इज द मोस्ट फेमस वन। मतलब अगर आप कॉन्सेप्ट में सिर्फ लोगो भी लगा देना तो लोग फिर भी बोलेंगे मेरे को लोगो बेटर, दे वांट दिस, इसके बगैर तो काम होना ही नहीं। फिर उसके अलावा मैंने कुछ 8 एग्जाम्पल्स यहाँ पे रखे हैं, यूजुअल क्रिटिक्स करती गई जो कि मैं बोलना चाहता है, सब पढ़ लीजिएगा, लेकिन मुझे जाती तौर पर 3 बड़े पसंद है क्लाइंट्स। वन इज द ब्लेंडर, ये हर एजेंसी फेस करती है, 3 ऑप्शन प्रेजेंट किए, उसने कहा इसका ये और इसका ये चाहिए, बड़े आराम से वो ब्लेंड करते हैं। दूसरा जो मुझे जाती तौर पर बहुत पसंद है वो ये वॉनबीज। एट टाइम मुझे लगता है कि क्लाइंट्स ने अपना प्रोडक्ट इसलिए बनाया है कि वो चाहते ही असल में ऐड बनाना थे, तो अगर प्रोडक्ट होता तो उनको चांस मिलता, तो वो हमें ब्रीफ देते ही वो हमें बताते हैं कैसे ऐड बनेगा। बट हम दिल वाले लोग हैं, हम वो भी सुनते हैं, वो भी बर्दाश्त करते हैं। एक और मुझे बहुत पसंद है इसमें, दैट्स द हिडन एजेंडा, वो बड़े जबरदस्त होते हैं। जब हमसे पूछते हैं कुछ समझने के लिए, वो कहते हैं आपका काम है कुछ समझना, आप किस लिए, बस अंडरस्टैंड होते हैं। कोई बात नहीं, फिर हम अपने मतलब सारी साइको एनालिसिस, हर तरह के एनालिसिस करते हैं, उस पॉइंट को समझने की कोशिश करते हैं, बट वी लिव थ्रू ऑल ऑफ दिस बिकॉज वी आर द एजेंसी। फिर एक और बड़ी जबरदस्त चीज, मतलब खुशी क्या होती है, प्रेजेंटेशन में बोला वी लव योर आइडिया, ग्रेट आइडिया, वंडरफुल, तालियां। लेकिन उसके बाद नाउ दिस आइडिया विल हैव टू रन थ्रू आवर मैनेजमेंट चेंज, और ये वही बात है जिसका आपने वो टॉर्चर करने देखी कि एक एक ग्रेड मार मार के बंदे को मारते थे, वो हमारे साथ होता है। एक ही दफा गोली मार दें प्रेजेंटेशन में बेहतर है, लेकिन ट्रस्ट में अगर आप एक क्रिएटिव बंदे को बोलेंगे सेम चीज 10 दफा आके बोले ना, वो मर जाएगा। हम 2 दफा एक चीज प्रेजेंट नहीं कर सकते, दैट्स हाउ वी आर। लेकिन हम 10-10 दफा सेम चीज 19 को 20, 19 को 20, 20 को 19.5, 19.5 को 18, 18 को 19 करते 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 we go through all of this, सब कुछ हम करते हैं, जो आप चाहते हैं हम वो करते हैं। फिर एक और तरह के बड़े जबरदस्त फीडबैक होती है प्रेजेंटेशन के बाद, कुछ नहीं बोल रहे, प्रेजेंटेशन खामोशी है, सन्नाटा है, the only thing they say, thank you very much, we'll get back to you as soon as possible। और उसके बाद the agency keeps following up, why? Because we're in no business of our own, कुछ काम होगा तो हमारे भी घर चलेंगे, चूल्हे चलेंगे, वरना कुछ नहीं हो सकता, we keep following up। फिर कुछ क्लाइंट्स भी होते हैं, आजकल टेक्नोलॉजी का जमाना है, फोन तो उठाना छोड़ देते हैं, फोन ही नहीं उठाते, फिर बड़ी मुश्किल से व्हाट्सएप पे किसी दिन हमें जवाब आ जाता है, और वो जवाब हम सारे किसी से वो बताते हैं कि ऑब्वियसली उन्होंने आके काम भी करवाया हुआ होता है, सारा बड़े परेशान होते हैं, बस किसी तरह हमें पैगाम दे देते हैं कि भाई ये चीज़ पसंद नहीं आई, ऊपर थोड़ा मसला हो गया। सुनते हैं हम उनकी भी, वो भी हम चेंज करने की कोशिश करते हैं, समझने की कोशिश करते हैं, उसको चेंज कर देते हैं। लेकिन कुछ क्लाइंट्स तो बिल्कुल ही डिसअपियर हो जाते हैं, ना व्हाट्सएप है, ना क्लाइंट, ना कॉल है, कुछ नहीं पता क्या हुआ प्रेजेंटेशन के बाद, नथिंग, नो। But since we are no business of our own, we do whatever it takes, whether even if we need to go to the moon to get back the feedback, our client services work their everything off to get the feedback somehow। वो हम लेके आते हैं फाइनली, और फिर कोशिश करते हैं कि वो एंड चीज किसी तरह से वो काम कंप्लीट हो जाए, किसी तरह से वो काम कंप्लीट हो जाए, और तो कोई चीज डिलीवर हो जाती है, और फाइनल टू डिलीवरी आर्ट निकल जाती है, एड्स निकल जाते हैं, काम हो जाता है, और पूरी चेन कंप्लीट हो जाती है। फिर कुछ क्लाइंट्स होते हैं जो इतना सब कुछ ये काम कराने के बाद भी कहते हैं, बड़ी अच्छी बात करते हैं, बड़ी खुशी खुशी बातें, चाय पिलाते हैं, बिस्किट खिलाते हैं, कहते हैं वी डोंट हैव द मनी राइट नाउ, दिस दिन अ बजट कट, और इंशाल्लाह डोंट वरी, देयर आर लॉट वर्क कमिंग योर वे। अभी आप देखिए क्या क्या चीजें आपको देख नहीं प्लीज आना शुरू होगी, घबराएंगे आप लोग, इंशाल्लाह आप लोग भी काम करें, टेंशन ना, हम टेंशन क्यों लेंगे कि हम तो बिलीवर को बिजनेस वांट टू वर्क हार्ड, नो वी गिव आवर बेस्ट, हम इसको भी कोई माइंड नहीं करते, टाइम चलता रहता है विद द क्लाइंट, सो वी आर ओके, लाइफ गोज ऑन, नो इश्यूज। फिर छोटी मोटी हर तरह के काम आते रहते हैं, शुरू कहाँ से क्या होता है पता नहीं, दुनिया पता करनी है, फिर एंड में बस छोटी मोटी चीजें हो रही होती हैं। यू कैन रीड वन एग्जांपल है, वो भी किस मुंह से बेचारा क्लाइंट मुश्किल से हमें बता रहा होता है, ब्रांड मैनेजर क्या करे, वो कुछ नहीं कर सकता, बस काम चल रहा होता है, लाइफ गोज ऑन। बट अच्छा हमें नहीं पता चलता, लेकिन क्लाइंट एंड पे बहुत कुछ हो रहा होता है, हम तो बैठे होते हैं काम करते हैं, कुछ और तब करना होगा, क्लाइंट एंड पे मार्केटिंग डायरेक्टर, सीएमओ खड़े होकर जबरदस्त प्रेजेंटेशंस कर रहे होते हैं, मतलब वो बता रहे होते हैं कैंपेन ने क्या किया, ये हो गया, वो हो गया, मतलब इससे अच्छी कोई चीज हो नहीं सकती थी, और खा गए हैं, दुनिया पता कर ली है, कॉम्पिटिशन बंद हो गया है, सब बेस्ट हो गया। वहीं पे क्लाइंट साइड पे सीएमओ और बोर्ड मीटिंग्स भी हो रही होती हैं, और पता चल रहा होता है कि कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा होता, हालात बहुत खराब है, सब कुछ चल रहा होता है, हम बेचारे बैठे होते हैं वेटिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट मीटिंग। और मीटिंग्स हो रही होती हैं, रिसर्च एजेंसी जाके हो रही होती है, मतलब बहुत टॉक्स हो रही होती है, बहुत इंटेंसिटी आ जाती है क्लाइंट साइड पे चलने की, और बहुत काम हो रहा होता है वहाँ पर। लेकिन उसके बाद वी गेट टू द स्टेज वेयर बाय सब कुछ सोचने समझने के बाद एक सोल्यूशन की तलाश है। All marketers, all clients are looking for the next solution which will solve all our problems. और ये वो solution है which defies all the laws and all the principles of marketing that I learned at IBA. हमें सिखाया गया था 4 P's of marketing. This is how to sell a product. ये जो solution होता है ये सारे P's को साइड पे रखता है, और वो कहता है activation. That's the solution. बस निकले 1 million households, ढूंढे consumers के निकल गए, आर्मी भेज दें, फौज भेज दें, बस पकड़ के उनको चीज हमारी बेचेंगे, कमर पकड़ के बेचें, सेल्स का बहुत बुरा हाल है, और बस वी नीड टू सेल और एल्स, कोई बात नहीं, ये काम भी हम करते हैं, कोई अपनी जान से करते हैं, पागल रहते हैं, मर जाते हैं इस प्रोसेस में, लेकिन हम करते हैं बिकॉज देयर इज नो बिजनेस ऑफ आवर ओन, वी आर ओनली ट्रीटिंग योर ब्रांड्स एज आवर ओन, और आपकी भी अपने दिलो जान देने के लिए तैयार हैं। लेकिन फाइनली वी कम टू, ऑब्वियसली हर मूवी का भी एक एंड होता है, कुछ होता है, तो मूवी का भी एक फाइनल क्लाइमेक्स आता है, व्हिच ऑल बॉइल्स डाउन टू दिस नाइस मार्केटिंग टूल किट दैट आई पुट हियर फॉर यू, जिसमें एंड में आके बड़ी सिंपल सी कहानी, घूम घाम के वो एजेंसी जो बेस्ट एजेंसी थी कुछ साल पहले जो आप लोगों ने कितने बड़े पाकिस्तान के प्रोसेस से सेलेक्ट की थी, वो दुनिया की सबसे बुरी एजेंसी होती है, उसको आप पारा कर देते हैं, तो उसके बाद क्लाइंट साइड पे सीईओ भी पारा हो जाता है, कि सीईओ उसको भी पारा कर देते हैं, और पूरी कहानी हैप्पी एंडिंग नहीं होती, लेकिन एंडिंग हो जाती है। However, like I said in the opening, that we and the client marketing are two sides of the same coin. हम एक ही coin के दो sides हैं. But some clients still get the best of us. We create campaigns that truly will help consumers. और यहाँ पे मैं सिर्फ दो examples आपको दिखाना चाहूँगा. आधी अधूरी ख्वाहिशें सब कब हो, पास है कुछ और कुछ है कम, और जो है कम वही है जो दम, जो नहीं है वही है जरूरी, आधी अधूरी।
जिंदगी में कुछ न कुछ कमी तो रह ही जाती है, लेकिन बैंक अकाउंट तो मुकम्मल होना चाहिए। पेश है यूबीएल का मुकम्मल करंट अकाउंट, जिसमें मिनिमम बैलेंस की कोई शर्त नहीं, और साथ में फ्री चेकबुक, फ्री ऑर्डर, ऑनलाइन ट्रांसफर, ये भी नहीं, फ्री डेबिट कार्ड, इंटरनेट बैंकिंग, फ्री इंश्योरेंस और बहुत कुछ। तो आज ही यूबीएल का मुकम्मल करंट अकाउंट खुलवाएं और बनाएं सब कुछ मुकम्मल।
UBL, where you come first.
So this is a campaign for UBL that brought in 1 trillion rupees in their account. Ask anybody at UBL and they will tell you what this advertising did for them. The second example that I have for you.
Yes. ये मेरी किताबें हैं। और ये मेरा पेन है।
स्कूल जाओगे? पाकिस्तान में 40% बजट तालीम से महरूम है, लेकिन वर्ल्ड भर में एशिया के 10 स्कूलों के स्टूडेंट्स को मुफ्त तालीम फराहम कर रहा है। आप भी लिप्टन का साथ दें और किसी छोटे का मुस्तकबिल रोशन करें। मज़ीद मालूमात के लिए 0301 लिप्टन को मिस्ड कॉल दें।
लिप्टन, ड्राइंग्स की लिए जो वाकई अहम है।
This campaign actually won the best digital campaign award last time, the Best Awards. This campaign was termed by Facebook as the best campaign in Pakistan for digital last time, and this campaign still is winning international awards for us. So this, हम तो वही एजेंसी हैं जो कभी-कभी ऐसा काम भी कर देते हैं, but ever wondered why? And that's the point I want to make here. The magic is actually in the client that rubs against us. हम वही लोग हैं, हम बड़े सेंसिटिव लोग हैं जो सही तरीके से हमें हैंडल कर लेते हैं, जो प्यार के साथ हमसे डील करते हैं, जो हमारी रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, हम उनके लिए ऐसा छक्का लगा सकते हैं कि उनके सारे रंग भर सकते हैं। लेकिन जो हमें उस तरह से ट्रीट करते हैं, जो मैंने आपको शुरू में दिखाई थी चीजें, और जो हमें पहले ही मार देते हैं, हम कहाँ से कोई वैसा काम कर सकेंगे जिसके लिए दिल जिगरा चाहिए। वे द सेम एजेंसी जो एक टाइम पे बहुत अच्छी होती है और एक टाइम पे बहुत बुरी हो जाती है। तो मेरा पैगाम क्योंकि बहुत सारे क्लाइंट्स यहाँ पे बैठे हैं, नो एजेंसी इज गुड और बैड। एक टाइम पे वो आपके लिए गुड होती है, बात आपके लिए बैड हो जाती है। सो द मैजिक इज इन यू, यू कैन गेट द बेस्ट आउट ऑफ द एजेंसी। और ये एक आर्ट है। Honestly, if you ask me, I've been working for 24 years in this country. This art was there before. It's a dying art now. अभी भी ऐसे क्लाइंट्स हैं जो आपको आपकी काबिलियत से ज्यादा भी निकलवा सकते हैं, लेकिन बहुत ज्यादा क्लाइंट्स ऐसे हैं जो आपसे आपकी काबिलियत के नीचे आपको फोर्स करके जमीन पे लगे होते हैं। तो कमाल आप लोगों का है किस तरह से आप एजेंसी से डील करते हैं। बट ऑब्वियसली the point is that I want you guys to think about it. कुछ लोग सोचेंगे, कुछ लोग बिल्कुल नहीं सोचेंगे, और ये भी होगा तो कहेंगे नहीं, मतलब एजेंसी चेंज करो, दूसरी एजेंसी आएगी। But since the subject that we are talking about here is reimagining marketing in the digital age, we're the agency people, we love to imagine and we will imagine। मतलब अगर आप मुझसे पूछते हैं बाकी सब एजेंसीज की दिल की आवाज ये होगी, अगर क्लाइंट से रियलाइज नहीं करेंगे, inshallah, we as agencies are looking forward to this next humanoid client. Okay, at least उनमें कुछ human तो हो। Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Qureshi. I've got to say that was heart-touching, but also very candid to all of us clients who work with the agency world. And I promise you have given me food for thought today, and I will treat the agency different than I work with. Certainly, you know, I always feel that the agencies are our partners, and together we can achieve great things. So I mean, there's a lot of agency providers here, so let's give all our agencies a round of applause. Thank you. I invite Mr. Bharat Avalani, who has just shared with me that he is also a grateful client that worked with an agency on the Lipton case. So, Mr. Avalani, please come forward to present Mr. Qureshi with the memento. Come forward.
I'm saying this on behalf of the clients. Ogilvy said that the clients deserve the advertising they get. But I also believe that the clients also deserve the agency they get. And my encouragement to you is, let's make each other deserving of each other. And as a grateful client, I'd like to give him a hug.
I share his sentiments. We love you, agencies. We promise to treat you better. All right. Let's move on to the penultimate session of the day. Penultimate is one of my favorite words. We will now discuss understanding marketing in an era of digital disruption. And I'd like to invite the moderator of this session, Vikarul Islam, Director and CEO of Jaffa Business Systems, to the stage. To join him, our esteemed panelists, Kurum Rahat, Director of Business Development, Data as a Service and Cloud, Telenor, Dr. Irfan Ahmed, CEO, .com Arabia, Syed Usman Kaiser, Chief Chief Manager Marketing, Jubilee Life Insurance Company. Thank you, gentlemen.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's an interesting topic, a topic that I'm accustomed to more or less since I started my career, and that will come as a surprise to many people because we think what's happening today is so different, so unreal, as if it has not happened before. So let's go back 3 decades ago, more or less when I started my career, slightly over 3 decades. My first few sales calls, and one of them was to a bank. And we went, at that time, we did not have CFOs, so we used to call them general manager finance. So we went to see a general manager finance or head of finance, and we were trying to sell an application which will surprise some people today, but it was automating the payroll system. And the GM Finance was quite upset as to why we come to this call, which will take away his job. So he thought payroll automation is not going to happen, and if it does, my job is going to go away. And he considered us as villains because we are there to get rid of people from their household earnings through this kind of a tool, which was by then at that time called computer. 30 years down the road, the same discussion is happening again. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, data, will it replace everything else? Will humans be present? And if they do, in what shape, size, and color? I guarantee they'll stay brown color still, but nonetheless. So the discussion has not changed. Of course, the quantum of discussion, the magnitude of discussion, the pace of discussion has definitely changed and evolved over a period of time. Has humans lost the touch than what they had 50 years ago? And if I ask this question to anyone else, everyone will say no. The answer is absolutely not. Humans have assumed lot more importance than what they did 30 years ago, but in a different way altogether. So this whole discussion of digital disruption, would it replace marketing as a function to be replaced by artificial intelligence, machines, robots, and the role of agencies more or less will go away. Maybe it will, maybe it will change its color. So in today's world, the discussion on the famous proverbial 3 words, as they say, or to unlearn, learn, and relearn, is a lot more important than what it has ever been. The businesses clearly are disrupted. I don't know how many of you know the stats, but till about 10 to 15 years ago, average life of a business was 75 years. So once you start a business and if you continue to do the fundamentals right, the business will continue to work on its own for about 75 years. Today, 75 years is reduced to 15 years. So if you don't reform your business, if you don't make your businesses current all the time and discussing it, then the life will more or less reduce to 15 years and you will be out of the business. So I think it's a very interesting topic. It brings very interesting dimension into the way things are shaping up around the world. And we have 3 great panelists who will try and explore various angles and see what dimension do they bring in towards this very important topic. So to me there is a human dimension to it, there is a data dimension to it, and there is an industry dimension to it. And let's try to see if we can cover all of those. The way we run it is I'll give 5 minutes to each of the panelists to just give an intro as to how they see this digital disruption, and do they really see marketing vanishing in times to come, or do they see it is evolving to something different? So maybe I start with Dr. Irfan and see if how does he see the role of humans as we move ahead in this age of digital disruption.
Thank you, Ophir. Thank you, Marketing Association, for letting me vent my thoughts. We're talking about digital marketing. Digital marketing started with the internet. I happen to be was 1998, and I contacted Yahoo, sitting here in Karachi, and asked them to become their sales representative for Pakistan as well as the Middle East. Because I felt that there was going to be a change, that people will start using more and more digital media. So there was a need to sell digital advertising. So for me, that revolution of marketing moving away to digital took place 20 years ago. It was very simple. All I had to do was to teach people what is a banner ad. I had to explain what is a website for something. And eventually, things caught on. People started accepting that you do need to communicate with others through the medium of the internet. Fast forward another 10 years, and we now started seeing a lot of artificial intelligence, or just plain intelligence, working its way into the digital space. So when you did a search, and at that time it used to be on Yahoo, not on Google, you could see an ad that appeared. But then when you went on to another website, you could see that that same ad was following. And you were like, wow, I searched for a car, and I'm now seeing car ads all over the place. You may have felt a little uneasy about it, but you enjoyed the experience because it was very few advertisers were actually using that. Later on, new companies started coming in. Google learned its game a little more, and then there were other companies like Credo who started capturing all your data and then contacting you on each step of your digital experience. That became annoying because you were now being followed everywhere, and everything that you did online was being stored, and that data was being used against you. At least that's how, as a consumer, you felt. So I think what is happening today is that we have kind of exceeded the limits that an individual will allow a marketer to use. And that is the reason why we had the incidents of Cambridge Analytica, where my privacy was being invaded. We need to look back, stop, and examine the role of a marketing person. Do we need that much data? Or can we, as marketing people, think and come up with solutions? If you go back 20 years, when you wanted to make a media plan, you would look at the type of medium that a person used. For example, if I wanted to reach out to someone who is interested in business, I would probably advertise in the business pages of Dawn. If I wanted to reach out to someone who is female, I would advertise in a magazine that was read by females. Now, because people are using a wide variety of media, what is happening is that you're relying more and more on statistics, more and more on analytics, and that decision making is being left to the Googles of the world. And what is happening? There are click farms in China that are clicking away at various ads, and you're relying on analytics. You're relying on the number of clicks that are generated. You're relying on the number of followers that you have on Instagram. And a large number of those are fake followers. You can buy followers. You can buy clicks. Should we rely upon that? I know we're talking about digital marketing. I know we should be talking about the greatness of digital. But at the same time, we are human. We have to realize that we have some common sense. Use that. We have some idea about what is good and what is not good. Let's use those ideas. Let's expand the use of digital and combine it with our own creativity. I think we saw an excellent example of the creativity that Shred showed us in his TV commercial. That will resonate with people. It's not just statistics and analytics, it's resonating with people that is important. Now, whether you want to communicate that online or you want to communicate that through a print medium, what is important is to feel. And to feel, you must be creative. So that's my general perspective on this. I know it may be very different from what people here would like to talk about. Let's see what others have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Khan. And it is interesting. And Dr. Khan spoke about using human mind, using creativity. One of the best things about human mind is the more you use it, the better it gets. Right? So, is AI or machine learning a substitute for intuition? Is it a substitute for gut feeling? Is it a substitute for collaborative thinking and collaborative decision making? Or can everything be done by the machine where intuition, gut feel doesn't have any value? How important is data in all this? Do we need all this data, or do we need to start thinking about smart data where I get to see the data that I want to see rather than being bombarded with all the data that is being generated by each one of us and also all around us? So we thought we've spoken about the human angle with Dr. Khan. Let's go to the second angle, which is the data angle. And who better than Puram, because he plays with data every day.
Thank you, Sir. Very insightful thoughts, Dr. Khan. And rightly, as Khan pointed out, I'll be talking about other part of the digital disruption, which relates to data. And of course, this whole digital thing started with internet. So what internet did was that it enabled any organization to just reach out to millions of customers, going beyond geographical boundaries. While it did so for one organization, it did so for hundreds of thousands of other organizations. So, you were back to square one. The biggest challenge in that is that while I can throw an ad to an individual who who's interested in traveling, so does thousands of other travel agencies or airlines. And one downside of it is when you're bombarded with so many similar messages, then what really happens is that your retention for a particular brand really reduces significantly. Not only it reduces significantly, but at the same time, in a lot of cases, it kind of creates a bit of a mesh-up and confusion. So in that scenario, the real difference is that while this digital age is generating a lot of opportunities, the real value is really how you can use the data which is being generated as a result of this digital revolution to really look at understanding the needs of the customers, using the insights, and that's where I agree with Dr. Safar. It's not the machine which is going to take the decision. It can highlight the patterns, it can highlight the hidden patterns, but then it is the individual who would, looking at those patterns, will develop insights, use those to develop better services and products, and then decide on what are the best channels to reach out to the customers at the right time through the right channel, and also the right message which should stand out. So basically, the importance, one key thing about digital marketing is that it should also not just convey the message, but then the real thing is now prompt for an action. So if you act now, you will get a certain benefit. And I think that's where this whole game is moving towards. Thank you.
Yeah, and as Paul said, data will not make the decision what you do with data. So it's extremely important to understand how data is coming in, and how it is being filtered, how it is being analyzed, how it is being sent to the right channel, to the right person, so that it creates the right impact. But all of it doesn't take away the human element, and Paul also emphasized on it, which is extremely important to understand, because a lot of times people are just nervous that humans are going to be replaced by robots or machines. In some cases they will, so let's not underestimate that. But humans will find new ways of doing things, new ways of using the machine. So it's the way we are doing the job that will change. And if we are not willing to change that, then the world will change. But those who will change will stay very relevant. So we've talked about the human element, we've talked about the data element. There's an industry element as well. How does industry see this disruption? And this is an industry, an interesting industry to speak about, because especially in the context of Pakistan, just like we don't have too many bank population or too much bank population in the country, talk about insurance, that's possibly even lower. So how does the industry see the role of this digital disruption, and how industry, in this case insurance, but you can also talk about in generic terms, how do you see things moving forward from an industry viewpoint, taking either advantage or get swamped by the data tornado?
Well, I totally agree with sir that it's not about just the machine, but it's the man or the human behind the machine. As far as the financial industry is concerned, we basically digital help to create that ecosystem where people can do more with their lives. If you take an example of banking industry, so what does this do? With these apps, we don't. Basically, the idea is to discourage traffic from the branches. If you're here to just take out the cash, you can always, or if you want to transfer the funds, you can always do it on your mobile, and you can save them and you can do better things in your life. So basically, it helps. But as far as communication is concerned, digital communication is concerned, I always believe, because I've worked in an advertising agency, I've worked for an FMCG like in the US as well. So we always believe in one thing, that first we need to be clear, then we need to be clever. Because clarity is of the essence. We as clients, जैसे भी मेरे स्टाफ ने बोला कि क्लाइंट जो है वो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज क्लाइंट है, तो मैं ये कहता हूँ एजेंसी इज एज गुड एज क्लाइंट एंड आउटकम इज एज गुड एज वी। आप किसी फैशन डिजाइनर के पास जाके ये नहीं कह सकते कि चीज को बनाना नहीं है, आपको बनवाना नहीं है। आपको पहले हम लोग को बेसिकली द थिंग इज वी नीड टू बी ऑब्जेक्टिव ड्रिवन, वी नीड टू हैव क्लियर कट ऑब्जेक्टिव टू व्हाट वी नीड आउट ऑफ दिस particular task, particular communication, particular application. We need to be clear first. What is the core objective behind it? Then you get the required solution. If you go to a doctor and you say, "मुझे दर्द हो रहा है," they will give you a broad spectrum painkiller. But if you say, "मेरे यहाँ दर्द हो रहा है," they will give you. He'll ask you certain questions. He'll dig down deep. So that's exactly the formula of communication works. That we need to be clear. We need to have all the right answers to the questions. And इंश्योरेंस इंडस्ट्री की क्या बताइए, हम लोग टेक्निकल से बेचते नहीं, हम तो जो है वो एक थॉट की बात कर रहे होते हैं। तो आपका सबसे पहली चीज होती है एलिमेंट ऑफ ट्रस्ट डेवलप करना। और बैंकिंग के अंदर के ज्यादा बात समझे तो 11% बैंक पॉपुलेशन अनफॉर्चुनेटली 89% स्टिल इन बैंक, और इंश्योरेंस का तो सिंगल डिजिट पे था बढ़ के, क्योंकि थैंक्स टू ऑल द thanks to bank insurance and other concepts, this has grown to 3 to 4%. But I'm still skeptical about it. So awareness किस तरह से create करेंगे, किस तरह से आप use करेंगे? For us, we have created an app, very very nice app for health. If you are talking about bond hospitals, if you go to the hospital and if you're not carrying a card, so that's where digital help. If you have an application, you still get the right treatment on those hospitals by utilizing those apps, and you can still get the claim instantly. You don't need to talk to everything which is out of emergency. You still go and you can get yourself checked.
uninterpreted data is the data loss. अब मैं बोले कि लोग सा बैठा हुआ लोग बिना किसी भी interact with 54 million people each and every day and you exactly know where they go, what do they eat, but I still don't utilize that data as तो वही वाली बात है कि जितना ज़्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन का जो ओवरडोज हुआ है उसको हम कितना ड्रॉप करते हैं, कितना यूज करते हैं और कितना आगे इस्तेमाल करते हैं, तो इसके ऊपर काफी जो है वो करता है.
Excellent. On a lighter note, because I was talking to an insurance man, so there's a very interesting stanza on insurance sales, and since I've been a salesman all my life, I think the toughest of sales is selling insurance.
Absolutely, ma'am. बल्कि मैं एक चीज सॉरी कोट करूंगा, मैं एक जगह गया बहुत बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की, तो मैं एक एजेंट था. 20 years ago I was an agent in the same organization actually. मैं छोटा बेचते बेचते आई थिंक एजेंसी चला गया. तो एक साहब आए, उन्होंने मुझे बहुत ही ज्यादा जो उन्होंने कहना शुरू कर दिया कि ये है कि तो आप क्या बात कर रहे हैं, कल किसी को नहीं पता, आपको बताइए वी हैव गॉट कंसर्न्स. तो मैंने कहा कि जी आपने दूसरों को रहकर मुझे सिर्फ 5 मिनट दीजिए, मैं आपको बेचूंगा. आपने प्लीज मेरी बात सुन लीजिए. और उन्होंने जो टाइम दिया तो फिर वो एक्चुअली व्हेन यू स्टार्ट एक्चुअली इज इंश्योरेंस इज अ ब्यूटीफुल प्रोडक्ट. यू जस्ट अगर आपको उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग आ जाए कोई वजह नहीं है कि आप नहीं लेंगे. मगर द थिंग इज हमारे क्योंकि इट्स अ टैबू, हम बात नहीं करना चाहते और अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे पास जो फोर्सेज हैं वो इतनी ज्यादा वो वेल इक्विप्ड नहीं होते बेचारे कि वो टाइम के बाद अगर आप सही तरह से इसके अंदर डिस्कशन करें, आई कैन गारंटी यू दैट इफ यू गिव मी 5 minutes to have a discussion you will be sold to get it. But unfortunately वो वाली बात है.
So अंदर मस्जिद एक हमारे बड़े जबरदस्त शायर हैं, उन्होंने एक दफा कहा था कि आप कराएं हमसे बीमा, छोड़े सब अंदेशों को. एक इंश्योरेंस सेल्समैन इंश्योरेंस बेच रहे थे, उससे बीमा कराएं उससे अच्छा कोई, तो आप कराएं हमसे बीमा, छोड़े सब अंदेशों को, इस खिदमत में सबसे बढ़कर रोशन नाम हमारा है. Nobody does it better than what we do. आप कराएं हमसे बीमा, छोड़े सब अंदेशों को, इस खिदमत में सबसे बढ़कर रोशन नाम हमारा है. खासे पैसे मिल जाएंगे आपके बीवी बच्चों को, आप तसल्ली से मर जाएं, बाकी काम हमारा.
But I think what you say, if you live it's saving, if you die then it is insurance.
I agree. So let's just move on before I do a small announcement. After this session, we have the last session of the day, which is possibly the best session of the day from Mr. Bharat Avlani on storytelling. So please hang on after the session. Listen to him. We had a couple of pre-conference sessions yesterday, and the feedback of that session is just brilliant. So just hang in there. I just want to move back to Dr. Irfan, and you touched upon the human element and quite well. I do want to understand from you, and you spoke about the past, and you spoke about the value of humans, and hopefully it is not going to go away. But what sort of role do you see for humans, say next 10 to 15 years, especially in marketing sphere, but even other, in the professional environment, in the way they work, in the way they act today? How do you see this role evolving? And do you see them as relevant as they are today?
Let me talk about my own experience, because I'm someone who likes to take on new things. So I took on the internet as a medium of advertising when most people didn't even use websites, they didn't know anything about internet advertising. In 2012 or 13, I went for something called programmatic advertising. There's a company in the US called Rubicon Project. I got in touch with them. In 2013, they reached more eyeballs than even Google. And that's a Nielsen report. So they were able to reach out to a large number of people. So I thought that this would be a great way to help my clients advertise. So I decided to run a few campaigns using the Rubicon project. But yes, they were able to reach a large number of people. But the quality of the sites that they were sending those ads on was not something that I would want any of my clients to be advertising on. It's a here again comes the human element, where I, as a human, have to decide what is good for my client and what is not good for him. Does this particular website where I'm placing my client's ad add value to the client? Or is it going to denigrate the quality of that brand? That decision is human. And that's something that I need to take. Moving along, I then realized that the internet was becoming a cluttered environment. Websites, mobile sites, everything was becoming just too much dependent on programmatic advertising, on giving away your rights as a human to technology to decide where the ad will be placed, on which website, and of what size. Because when you book through Google, you've got a whole bunch of different sizes of ads, you just place it, and then you let Google do the work. The human element was being lost. So more recently, I decided to go for something called digital out of home. And I went for digital out of home, which is iconic. So I'm currently involved in selling digital out of home in places like Times Square, New York, Piccadilly Circus in London, on the London Underground, and in various other cities around the world. Now, in order to sell something, let's say a company in Pakistan, to advertise in Times Square, you go through any kind of digital, programmatic, or technological analysis. It just doesn't give you an ROI. Why will Jubilee Insurance advertise in Times Square when there's hardly any ROI that's visible? No technology will tell you to do that. We had a client here, Hamdard. They advertised through WhatsApp on Times Square on the 23rd of March. They made a video of their advertising. That video has been seen 1.4 million times on YouTube. It has been seen even more times on Facebook and has been shared multiple millions of times on WhatsApp. So if you were to look at this advertising from a strictly analytical perspective, there would have been no ROI. But because there was somebody at Hamdard, somebody who believed that by advertising in an iconic space, you can create more interest in your brand, that human element went in and they agreed to advertise. And they followed that up because of the success of that branding, with advertising in the London Underground, with advertising in Toronto's Eaton Centre, and now they're planning to do more advertising on 23rd March in various other cities around the world. That's the power of the human element. That's building your brand through the human touch. And again, using digital.
Excellent example of how the world has evolved from advertising or marketing in yesteryear to using the power of data, using the power of social media, not just to advertise, but to beyond the advertisement, use it in a way that it becomes very, very effective. So, and again, human mind is absolutely irreplaceable. But let me come back to Param again and back to data. How do you see data and human element combined together, come up with, if you like, the future map of where the world is going to move?
So, absolutely, I think we all heard Stephen Brooks, the keynote speaker this morning, talking about the fact that the artificial intelligence will provide you with statistics, hidden patterns, will provide you with, kind of relationships which would not be possible for a human mind to look at. But then at the end of the day, what it does is it provides you with the with all those visualizations, with all those patterns, at the end of the day, it has to be a human who has to then take that conscious decision as to how to interpret it, and then what is the best way to utilize it. As Dr. Sab just mentioned, just purely looking at ROI, so you can't just say that for programmatic advertising, just look at the ROI and then take a decision. Programmatic advertising can tell you what could be some of the possible best ways of spending it. But then at the end of the day, I think that user appreciates the man behind the gun, which always prevails. So to me, data in whatever form can provide a lot of very interesting insights, very interesting patterns, hidden relationships. But then at the end of the day, it is for the humans to interpret it, and take decisions. And there, yes, at the end of the day, it is the gut feeling. The only difference is gut feeling, which is supported by facts, which comes into play.
Very good. And again, more or less consensus before I go to Smart. So I will open the floor for questions. So if anyone has questions, once I've done with my question to Smart, please raise your hand. And actually there are questions here who will come to you and give you the mic to ask the question. So as Paul also said, you can't replace the power of intuition, the power of gut, the power of understanding the avalanche of data. By the way, all of us are contributing. So all of us generate incredible amount of data each day. So we are all part of, in a way, data enrichment, but in some ways we are also part of the data pollution that is happening all around us. So beware when you are really enriching the data out there and when you are actually polluting the data, especially when you are forwarding and received messages. The question to Usman, do you really see the role of, and specific reference to financial industry, but also insurance industry, do you really see the role of humans going away? Even in countries like Pakistan in the next 10 to 15 years, with all this digital disruption and machines absolutely taking over the role of insurance salesman, insurance marketing, insurance C-level decision making, how do you see it evolving for your own specific industry?
Well, it will not completely have, it will add few touch points, customer touch points as far as insurance and financial industry is concerned. Because financial dealing and financial industry is more of a personal thing. Bankers and insurance agents are all over the world as well, are known as personal financial consultants, and they are more of a part of the family. If you look at it, we have a consumer economy. We have a different kind of mindset. 70% of our population are not even exposed to the mediums we are talking about. So when you're talking about those areas, let's say security example, you talk about exchange. तो डबल एक्सचेंज के अंदर जो है अगर एक बैंकर जो है वो बेसिकली वो बैंक होता है. अगर आप बात करें कि जी मैंने एसबीएल में, मैंने यूबीएल में, मैंने फलाने में पैसे जमा करवा दिए, तो ऐसा नहीं होता. I come from that background. Therefore, practically, I asked my uncle that where did you put your money? In which bank? तो जहाँ यार वो पाकिस्तान है आजकल वहाँ पर रखवा दिए. For them, the personal interaction is more important. हमारे यहाँ इस चीज़ को फॉलो होने में थोड़ा सा टाइम लगेगा. हम अभी तक अनरेगुलाइज हम लाइक आई सेड कि डेटा को इंटरप्रेट कर ही नहीं उस तरह से करना चाहिए. If you ask me, हमारे जो सोशल मीडिया के ऊपर जो हमारे 2 मिलियन सब्सक्राइबर्स हैं, 2 मिलियन हमारे लाइक्स हैं, उनके साथ हम इंटरेक्शन करने के लिए अब आप देखेंगे बैंकिंग एंड फाइनेंशियल इंडस्ट्री पे जो एक्सेलेंट एंगेजमेंट रेट है वो 3.4% of the overall population, the overall universe we have. So you interact only 3.5 to 4%, and उसके ऊपर अगर आप 7% हो जाते तो आप बुरे डालते. So if we are managing more than 11%, that needs to have some kind of a connect that we have created. Or every medium has got their own expertise. You should have your own. Every medium should be taken separately. वही वाली बात है कि अगर आपने टीवी का ऐड अगर डिजिटल लगा दिया, it will not have that impact. You need to have a special mindset for specialization. You need to have a special resource, specialized mindset and skill set as well. Then only you will be able to do something. As far as financial industry is concerned, it will definitely add touch points. If my insurance is being sold
are there on digital. We are in fact one of the few and first movers in Pakistan who have launched this kind of insurance policies and applications. So we have got we have recently started after Haryana State में जाके हम health insurance ले सकते हैं. आप जाएं और जाके 100,000 रुपए की insurance लेने you get 25,000 or 50,000 rupees covered on this point. So yes, it will help you adding those customer touch points, but it will not definitely eliminate the human factor.
So good news for all humans, they are not going away. So just be reassured after the session. Do we have questions from the audience? Anyone? Everyone is. Okay, so I just then, if we don't have questions, I would just want each one of you to have very quick parting comments, if you like, on the session. How do you see the role of humans, data, industry going forward? Where do we start? Just very quick comment.
Thank you very much. I think the session, the consensus was there that there is definite value in digital, there is definite value in data, utilizing data internally and externally. And but at the same time, I think we all agree that while we look to make the right use of data, but at the end of the day, it will be the humans who are going to take those decisions. Again, I would just say, use their experience, use their gut feeling, whatever you may want to call it, backed by data, backed by facts, and that's how I see things moving forward.
Great, excellent. Yeah, great, Dr. Ron.
I think I will echo the sentiments of Khurram in the sense that you have to utilize data, you should not ignore it, but at the same time, use your human element, your human touch, your passion. Is this something that you feel is going to be good for you and your company? Then go for it.
Swan, your last comment?
Well, I would say, adding to what our senior colleagues are saying, that human element is there, but we need to be clear. Still, focus upon that because the largest travel company of the world owns no hotel. The largest car company of the world owns no cars, and the largest. That is one thing that we need to be clear on. That what is your concept? What is the concept behind it? And what is the core objective behind it? So we need to be clear. Clarity is of the essence.
Absolutely, and I think the point Usman made, just to conclude. So first is, all these tools like data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, they bring speed, they bring efficiency, they bring scale. They absolutely do not replace humans and will not replace humans, but the way humans are being used today will definitely change. So it's extremely important. One question I always tell at least the young people to be aware of and to continue to ask yourself, whatever I know today, whatever I do today, will it stay relevant 2 years down the road? If the answer is yes, you are on the right route. If the answer is no, you need to immediately learn. If the answer is I don't know, you are in big trouble. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call upon President Ali Hassan and our Vice President Imran Ahmed to come to the stage and please present our panelists as well as our moderator with the appreciation mementos. To begin with, Mr. Fakar Ul Islam. Thank you. Mr. Khurram Raha. Dr. Irfan Ahmed. Syed Usman Kaser. Thank you, gentlemen. One group photograph. Thank you. And now to move on to our final session of the day, I'd like to invite Mr. Bharat Avalani to come on stage and to share his expertise with us on unleashing your storytelling superpower. How storytelling can help us gain real knowledge from all the information bombarded in our faces every day. Mr. Bharat Avalani, storyteller and memory collector, has been a passionate and he's devoted his heart, he told me, to marketing throughout his career. He's worked for Unilever and is an EC member of the Asian Federation of Advertising Associations and IAA in Malaysia. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Bharat Avalani.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a small request. All those people who are sitting on the back row, do you mind filling up the front rows? Because as a storyteller, it's difficult to speak when I see emptiness. So can we all huddle up and come in front? Come on, I don't bite and I won't ask you any questions. Come on, let's fill up all the seats in front. I'll be grateful. Thank you so much. Come on, everybody come in front. I know this is a school habit. Always sit on the last bench. There are two places for the chairman. You have future chairman of the companies. Please fill up these two seats. Thank you for staying back. My friends call me a storyteller, but I actually consider myself a memory collector. I use memories to tell stories to make things happen in business. Yesterday, last night, I was sad, I was a bit upset because today is my son's birthday. My son, Kushal, is 10 years old and I missed 5 of his birthdays. So, बहुत बुरा लगा. And I was sitting in Nadia last night with Hamza and Asfar listening to songs. And you know what songs are? Songs can express emotions which we can't. So I became emotional. And when it became 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. or whatever you say, I declared that आज मेरा बच्चा का birthday है. And we all decided to celebrate. And we cut a cake at 1:30 this morning. And when I went To Nadia, I only had two friends, which is Asfar and Hamza. Where's Asfar? Can somebody bring Asfar in? He's sitting on the left hand side here. Khurram, ask Asfar to come in. Alright, but when I left, I had everybody in Nadia celebrating my son's birthday. So I say, there are no strangers in the world, only friends we haven't met. And the shortest distance between two people is a story. And just before I went to sleep, I posted on Facebook and I read exactly what I wrote. And I said, the apple of our eyes and the joy of our lives, who shall stand today? Son, I'm sorry for not being able to be with you today, but I want you to know that from a distance, we celebrated your birthday at 1:30 this morning with friends in Karachi, where I am sitting on assignment. I'm dedicating my talk to you today. Bless you, my boy. Missing you, my son, and my wife. So, in 1998, I was the head of marketing services at River Brothers in Malaysia. And as head of marketing services, I was responsible for media, market research, and public relations and brand PR. And every year, the Unilever used to conduct a study on beauty trends, because the insights on beauty changes from time to time. And the insights inspire us to write the appropriate advertising briefs to inspire our agency. On this particular occasion, we are doing a focus group, and there were 10 women. And I remember asking them, which part of your body makes you look beautiful? And most of them said that hair makes them look beautiful. The second question I asked was, what is that moment that makes you feel beautiful? And they said it's a moment when the kids touch the hair and it says, Ami, they tussle the hair. And that's a feeling of how beautiful they feel. But obviously they must feel most beautiful when they share the intimate moment with their spouse, and who again tussles her hair. But coincidentally, all the 10 women were wearing hijab. They were wearing scarves. And then I went on to ask, are you happy with the shampoos that we have in the market? And they said, not really, because they cover their hair, they tend to sweat. And because you sweat, you tend to have an itchy skull, and it also has some myelin. Do you have any favorite shampoos? He said, not really, because the advertisements that we see do not talk to us, but we actually buy the popular shampoos. And as a marketeer who live in Malaysia, where 60% of the population is Muslims, and half of them cover their hair, why did not we see that opportunity? So next morning, I went to the office and I started speaking to the brand managers, and I told them what I saw, what I felt, and what I heard. And as the day went by, the message reached Zijian Ho, who was the marketing director. He asked me a few more questions, and the message also reached the chairman. And within 48 hours, a decision was made in the company to launch for the first time in the world shampoo targeting Muslim women, or women who cover their hair. And of course, it was an instant success. It became the #1 brand in 1 year's time. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because in a normal environment, this is what you'll do. You'll actually write a market research report, and उसमें 1-2 महीना चला जाएगा वो report लिखने में. देन आप वो रिपोर्ट सर्कुलर करेंगे और उसमें कोई बोलेगा कि आप इसका एक बिजनेस केस बनाओ, मेक अ बिजनेस केस आउट ऑफ इट. So you make a business case, and there will be enough people in the company to challenge the business case. और उसमें 6 महीने चला जाता, 6 months would pass, and what will happen in 6 months time? The person who wrote the business case will lose his passion, because छोड़ो, and a competitor would have probably taken the advantage. But what happened was, I told a story, and I didn't realize that I was storytelling way back in 1998. And what happened when I told the story? I engaged people. I managed to engage a lot of people in the company. I also managed to influence people. And more importantly, I could inspire people to act. That's the power of storytelling. A storytelling can help you engage, can help you influence, and can help you inspire. Can I share with you that advertisement which we made?
You could. Menerusi nature, aku perlu disari oleh sunset. Akan kulit kepala dan rambut kekal sehat walaupun Anda bertudung. Satu lima puluh memahami kemeriahan rambut bertudung.
This was the fastest ever launch in the history of Unilever Malaysia because everybody was inspired. So the product was developed very quickly. I think if you are targeting products at Muslim with green color, you cannot go very wrong. And with the product formulation, we put enough ingredients to help with the itchy scalp, and with the perfume we could mask it. And the challenge was to actually make a connection with the consumer. And that touch. And you were handsomely rewarded. Now the difference between emotion and reason is that PowerPoint, Excel sheets will lead to conclusion, but emotions will inspire action, and a story has both. To put it simply, facts inform, stories tell. And I have a working definition for stories because storytelling is hard work. We are all businessmen, and my task is to put stories to work. So the working definition of stories is stories are facts, wrapped in context, delivered with emotion. We took the facts, but the way we delivered it was in context and with emotion. And I think this is a definition that I like to remember for storytelling at work. Stories are facts, wrapped in context, delivered with emotion. 5 billion gigabytes. That is the amount of data that has been generated from the beginning of time in the year 2003. In 2011, that amount of data was generated in 2 days. Can you imagine how much time does it take to generate that amount of data today? I don't have the latest data, but in 2015, it took 2 minutes, and I assume today it probably will take a few seconds or 30 seconds. So we are all drowning in data, we are drowning in information, but we are starving for wisdom, we are starving for knowledge. And storytelling helps you remember and helps you make sense of the amount of information that we receive every day. So let me show you a small clip that tells you the story of storytelling.
Okay, let's resist the urge to start with once upon a time. But to understand why storytelling is important to you, your company, your brands, or your corporate reputation today, we're going to have to go back a bit.
The origin of the importance of stories lies in their power to explain. For ancient man, when the crops failed, he wanted to know why. The storytellers that could provide the most engaging explanations for the actions of the gods acquired the biggest and most attentive audiences and began to assume positions of authority. Thus the rise of the priest, judges and rulers, and eventually the popularity of the BBC, Google, and the world's largest repository of personal stories, Facebook. Neurological research shows that our brains, despite evolution, still look for the story to make sense of information today. In fact, in the landmark Hyder and Simmel study, people interpreted a simple animation involving two triangles, a circle and a square, as a torrid tale of love, promiscuity, and domestic violence. Ideas conveyed in story form, especially visual stories, versus concepts explained with logic and analysis, naturally imprint themselves into the brain faster. Stories are also universal, crossing boundaries of culture, language, gender, and age. They're told and retold, building and preserving a group sense of community. Stories align and motivate by portraying the world in terms that build emotional connections between people and create a sense of shared purpose. In an age of ever-increasing noise, in which we send 1 billion tweets a week, read around 10 megabytes of material a day, hear 400 meg, and see 1 meg of information every second, attention is worth more than ever before. And nothing holds attention like a great story.
Stories are memorable. So let's do a pop quiz. John walked on the roof. Bill picked up the axe. Pete put on the helmet. Jim gave a speech. Frank built a boat. Harvey flipped the electric switch. Don brought the plane. Who picked up the eggs? Come on, who picked up the eggs? Are you sure? I'll give you an easy one. So, may I ask you, who flipped the electric switch?
Harvey.
Sure? Okay, then who walked on the roof? Who built the boat?
No, he didn't.
Who gave the speech? Ma'am, who wrote the play? Do you want to have a play? Want to have a bet? Are you confident? I think the people who say don't, you're probably right because you tend to remember the last thing you heard. But do you remember who walked on the roof? Can we give it one more try? Santa Claus walked on the roof. Easter Bunny picked up the eggs. Viking put on the helmet. John F. Kennedy gave a speech. Noah built a boat. Edison flipped the electric switch. Shakespeare wrote the play. Who flipped the electric switch? Who picked up the egg? Who built the boat? Who wrote the play? Who gave the speech? Who walked on the roof? So how come when I did this exercise the first time round, you could not only remember, but you started guessing, and the second time round, you got it 100% right. Because the second one, absolutely, the second one had elements of a story. As human beings, we are not wired for words and numbers. You know, one of the speakers quoted about 60, 70 numbers. And do you remember any of the numbers that were quoted? 50%, 70%, 80%, 95%. You can't even remember words. How are you going to remember numbers? And what we do in the business day in, day out? Numbers. As human beings, We are not wired to remember words and numbers. As human beings, we are wired to remember images, pictures, emotions, and space. If I were to tell you where you were when 9/11 happened or when Osama was caught, chances are each one of you will remember that moment. If you are going house hunting and your spouse is not with you, you have visited that house for about a few minutes and your spouse will ask you, "Kaisa tha udhar?" Chances are you will be able to draw it because visually you can see it. So if you can inject a bit of context, a bit of emotion, it helps people remember things. And that's the power of a story. Next I'm going to show you a video which proves how memorable stories are. And in this video, it's a TV show called All in the Mind, and there's a UK scientist called, can I request you to please not to take it because some of this is copyrighted, but whatever I can share publicly, I'll be happy to leave it behind. Ma'am, if you don't mind, thank you. He's talking to Andy Bell, who is the world memory champion, and he helps you how to remember things. Have a look at the video. So this is Robert Benson.
So Andy, what mental torture have you got?
The audio also?
Well, I'm going to give you this list of words, and I want you to try to remember them. These are the words: wash, apple, jet, mad, actress, marmalade, gap, van, clock, tile, old cat, tail, pill, pier, bucket, chain, bottle, sand, egg, window, salamander, paper, microphone, cork, piano, dog, captain, tennis, kennel, tomato. And you're going to be able to remember it. Well, I think you might, because I'm going to give you a technique that will help. I'm going to ask you to picture 2 words at a time in a sequence of locations around your home. So I'll give these to you. But then I have 3 things to remember. The 2 words plus the location. You already know the locations around your home, so the sense of location is going to help you. Trust me, it's not going to add to the problems. I'll never do it. Yes, you will. I'm going to give you at least until that egg gets cold to have a look at that list. So I stop off the garden. Wash the apple. There's the ball. There's a jet magnifier. There's the dining room. Where there's an actress. Who's your favourite actress? Judy Dench. But she wouldn't be smeared in marmalade. She would be. Why? So you can remember. For the next 5 minutes, I frantically try to imagine all these crazy images and think where to put them. The normally quite unexceptional Winston household will never feel quite the same again. So, do you think you can remember any of the words I gave you earlier today? I'll give it a go. I'll start off outside the garden. Wash apple. Jetman. Actress. Marmalade. Jetman. Cocktail. Cylinder. That's right. Bucket chain. Clock. Tile. Bottle. Sand. Okay, try to remember the room you were in when you thought of those words. Salamander, paper, microphone, cork, piano, dog, captain, tennis, kennel, tomato. How many out of 30 do you think you got? I think probably all of them. Well done.
So it works.
He got all of them right. What he did was, he transferred the information into images, into locations. Do you have trouble remembering things? Yes or no?
Yes.
We can't even remember phone numbers. We can't even remember people's names. I struggle. And I'm probably a bit older and a bit younger than some of you. Has anybody been to Mauritius? Anybody been to Mauritius? Yeah. Who's the founder president of Mauritius? Sivu Sagar Ramgoolam. He's like the Quaiti Azam of Pakistan. So wherever you go, there'll be people who will remind you. And I was going to be there for 2 weeks, and I said I got to find a way to at least remember the founding president of Mauritius. So if you've been to Mauritius, it's a country of forest, it's a country of wood. Would you agree? It's got lakes. It's also a Hindu kingdom. There are temples. And the French also brought the slaves from India to work on the sugarcane fields. So this is how I remember them. Sea, wood, Sagar is lake. Sivu Sagar, that's his first name. Ram is the Hindu god, and Gulam is the servant. Sivu Sagar Ram Gulam. And my friends were very impressed. But I used this technique. So try it out. You know, when your wife tells you to give you your shopping list and all that, translate it into some images and notations, and half your domestic problem will be solved. You know, I always say that you can't beat a story with a fact, only with a better story. Have you got into an argument where somebody has a fact and the other person also has a fact, and it's fact versus fact, chances are you will not win. Because each person in a debate will find enough facts to defend his or her point of view. But if you tell a story, chances are you will win. These are the numbers of the Syrian refugee crisis. And I'm not even bothered to read the numbers to you because I know you not remember. You could not even remember the words, so chances are you don't remember these numbers. On 2nd September 2015, Alan Kirby, a 3-year-old boy, and his family boarded a small plastic boat, an inflatable plastic boat, which capsized 5 minutes after it left Bodrum in Turkey. They were on their way to the island of Kos in Greece, which is about 30 minutes from Bodrum. The boat sank, 16 people died because the boat was only supposed to carry 8 people. But on the beach of Bodrum, a Turkish journalist took this photograph and published it. And this is what happened next. Humanity watched ashore. Shame, shame, shame. This photograph caused a dramatic upturn in the response of the world to the Syrian crisis. The French president called up the Turkish president. A lot of the European Union leaders met and decided to open up their borders for Syrian refugees. British Prime Minister David Cameron was also involved. And I believe maximum number of donations was collected because of this picture. Power of a story. And my favorite author, Khaled Hosseini from Afghanistan, some of you may have read his books, The Kite Flyer. He actually...
The Kite Runner.
The Kite Runner. Yeah, because we fly the kite runner. He wrote this beautiful book called The Sea Prayer, dedicated to Elan Kurdi. and the collection of this book goes to help the refugees in crisis. That's how a story inspires. The world today has more overweight people than malnourished people. There's one standing in front of you as well. And these are the numbers. And again, you'll forget. But here's a brand of margarine who decided to adopt a village and change the health of the village.
You can't look at somebody and ever get an idea if you've got high cholesterol or not. I was really worried about Ira, so I took us off to get tested. And actually, I'm just as bad. So when Floor Director came to town with their 3-week challenge, we thought we'd give it a go.
Tomorrow afternoon is a dog walk. I haven't got a dog, but I'm vomiting out to stop me.
It's not like a difficult diet. You're eating Chloropractin every day and swapping a few things.
There's no minute there's this operation.
I'm ready for this. Brilliant. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. If I can do this, with the change everyone can.
So this was a story that went viral, and what happened was the health of a village was changed when they changed their lifestyle. Billions of people are online, and this is the number of Google searches. It changes by the minute. And you know what is the mission of Google? Mission of Google is to organize world information and make it universally accessible and useful. But what really Google wanted to do was to see how meaningful the search engine is in real life and how it can help people in real life. And this is what Google did.
मट्ठी और अचार नहीं ठीक।
पता नहीं अब तेरे पापा क्या करेंगे रिटायर होकर।
क्यों? बॉम्बे चलोगे आप लोग मेरे साथ? और
नहीं जाएंगे।
क्यों नहीं जाएंगे?
करीब 40 साल पहले तेरे पापा भाग के बम्बई गए थे फिल्मों में हीरो बनने के लिए।
पापा, ये मिस्टर सिनेमा हॉल मैनेजर हमारे हीरो बनना चाहते थे।
एक दिन इनका फोन आया, फिल्म में कोई रोल मिला था। बैंगलोर के पास शूटिंग थी। तेरे दादाजी को ये सब पसंद नहीं था ना, कान पकड़ कर ले आए और तेरे पापा यही सेटल हो गए। ठाड़ लिया था कि हीरो नहीं बने तो कभी बम्बई नहीं जाएंगे। सिनेमा हॉल में नौकरी कर ली, फिल्मों से जुड़े भी रहे और रहे।
Okay, Google. Which Hindi movie was shot near Bangalore 40 years ago? Sholay? Okay, Google. Where was Sholay shot?
Ramnagar.
मैंने कहा ना तेरे पापा तेरे साथ बम्बई नहीं आएंगे।
बम्बई? मम्मी बम्बई नहीं जा रहे, मैं और पापा छुट्टी पे जा रहे हैं। छुट्टी? हाँ।
तुम बॉम्बे पे जाना भाई, तुम्हारे बीच की बात है।
तू ये कहाँ पे जा रहा है? ये क्या छुट्टी मनाने की जगह है? हाँ? 40 साल पहले यही तो आना था।
और यही कि शायद वो फेमस डायलॉग हुआ होगा, कितने आदमी थे। हाँ? एक बार आप भी बोलो, वॉइस है। बोलो ना पापा। पूरी जिंदगी दबाए रखो।
कितने आदमी थे
एक बार
कितने आदमी थे
उस कपल सी
कितने आदमी
अब इतनी दूर आए हैं पापा तो 3-4 लोकेशन और देखे।
फसूलबाज जहाज की बंद खिड़कियां खोल के
दिल चाहता है
कौन परिंदा उड़ चला आज पलक खोल के एक धड़कन सो गई थी कच्ची नींद में उसे थपथपा के जगा के फिर टटोल के सपना सोने का सूरज को छूने का फिर से देख ले भर के उमंगों को चूम ले चलता ले कुछ तो निभा खुद से आया चलता
It's me too.
पापा कल फिल्म देखे? ठीक। कैसे हो बेटा?
विकी नहीं देखा है।
हीरो तो आप बन गए। अब तो रिटायर हो गए। हीरो कभी रिटायर नहीं होते पापा। अब तो वापस चले।
You know, that's the power of our industry. If you create stories like this, you can help solve problems which governments also cannot solve. You can inspire people to take actions to fulfill the dream of their parents. You can inspire people to connect. Have you seen the earlier Google ad, Reunion, for India-Pakistan? You know what I did after I saw the ad? I went to Old Lahore, not Delhi Darwaza, which is that other Darwaza? Sorry? Yeah, which Darwaza is it? It's not Mochi Gate. I went to the Mochi Darwaza. I went to Faisal Street. And I asked him, वो मैंने ऐड दिखाई, मैं तो आपने देखी है, इसे सुना है तो मैंने ये ऐड बनाई है, मैंने देखी है। और लेकिन मैं ये बाहर वाले को रिक्शा वाले सब है, उसने ये ऐड देखी होगी क्या नहीं? ठीक है, ये लोग तो नहीं देखते ना, ये तो YouTube की है, उसने देखी नहीं होगी। I came on the street and I had a rickshaw wala and I showed them the ad on my phone. And trust me, he had tears in his eyes. And you know what he told me? He said, can I see it one more time? किसी और को भी मुझे दिखानी है. And the second time around, even my eyes went wet. And you know what I did? I bought a box of Jarjarias, the sweets in the ad at Faisal Sweets, and I distributed it. And when I spoke to Piyush Pandey, Ogilvy India, who created the ad, and I told them, is this ad real? He says, no, Bharat, it's a work of fiction, but it could be real. That's the power of stories, and that's the power of marketing, and that's the power of communication. I told her this morning, for me, I've been a marketer for 25 years, and people ask me, why did you stick to one profession and to one company? And to me, marketing is my religion. Because the essence of religion is to do good, to feel good, and to help people get more out of life. And that's what we do with our brands, with our products, and with our services. If you do it well, you can do good. You can help people feel good. And you can help people get more out of life. This is the world water crisis. I'll not even bother to read the numbers. And the numbers meant nothing to me. Because I come from Malaysia, and you know Malaysia rains all year round. We got plenty of water. And I don't even pay my water bills. Water in my home is free. Because I just use the minimum amount of water. In 2005, I went to East Africa for the very first time on work, and I've been there many times, but the first time was always special. And I stayed on over the weekend, and I went to Masai Mara to see the animals in their natural surroundings. On my way back from Nauru to go to the Nairobi airport, I was stopped by a Masai warrior. And when a warrior asks you to stop the car, you better stop the car. So I stopped the car, and the warrior asked me, the Masai warrior, he said, do you have some water? And I had a box of mineral water with me, and I gave him 2 bottles of water. In return, he gave me the spear. He said, you can have my spear. It's a handcrafted spear. I did not take the spear, but I took a photograph to remind me what value different things have in different times and in different locations. Water in Malaysia had no value to me. But the spear, I'll probably give $100 for it. It's a handcrafted spear. But to the Maasai warrior, the spear had no value. He valued water more than the spear. And that to me was a wake-up call. And ever since that, my attitude towards water has changed. And I get very upset when people waste water. And there are certain water habits that are used as a rule in my home. That when we wash the dishes, the maid has been told to switch off the water. When we brush our teeth, the thing has to be off. Don't let the water run. And no glass would ever be left with running water in it. And recently I saw this advertisement, and that is to actually feel empathy. I think people like us who get a lot of water should feel for people who don't have water. So look at this.
एक दिन हमारे गांव में किसी ने नहाने का साधन नहीं दिया। हमारे आधे गांव में पानी पीते हैं और एक शहर वाले का नहाना अभी खत्म ना हो।
So in conclusion, I think you have spoken a lot about digitalization, but I think while we digitize, let's not forget to humanize. And never, we talk about big data, we talk about AI, but don't underestimate the power of algorithm of one. One person can make a difference. That's the power of idea. This morning, I remembered a few things which Steve said, and being the closing speaker, I'd like to make some connections to what we were told this morning. He started off by saying that humans should not cry, but I think humans should tell stories. Machines do not have conscience, but stories have emotions. That means we have conscience. AI will not replace managers, but managers who use artificial intelligence will replace those who don't. I believe that leaders who put stories to work will be more engaging, will be more influencing, and will be more inspiring, and they'll be more successful. He said we must educate people in a creative and human way. I believe storytelling can restore humanity at the workplace. Storytelling can humanize the workplace. Marketing is no longer about the stuff you make, but it's about the stories you tell. I've been coming here since 1994, and every time I go back with a very heavy heart because I become a better human being when I come here. Because यहाँ मुझे इंसानियत महसूस होती है. पाकिस्तानी आपको अपना बना लेते थे, and that's what attached people when I go back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bharat Abalani, for sharing your stories with us and giving us such a memorable presentation. Thank you. I would like to invite Mr. Fakarul Islam to present the memento to Mr. Bharat. Thank you. Thank you. For the concluding remarks, I would like to invite Mr. Ali Habib, who is the General Secretary of the Marketing Association of Pakistan, as well as the Head of Corporate Communications, Habib Bank. Mr. Ali Habib.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Coming at the end of what was such a moving presentation by Bharat Abalani, I think one also, and especially also at the end of a very informative day, I think the tough task. Or when I was sitting there, I was actually asking myself the question that Stephen Frost said earlier this morning. The digital age is not going to make us redundant as marketeers, but some of our skills as redundant. I think with that in mind, I was actually stressed. And I was asking myself, okay, what skills of mine would be redundant in this coming age? But when I heard Bharat at the end of the day, I realized that no matter what state of digitization we are, the power of storytelling, and which is exactly what marketing is all about, this power of storytelling, will always remain supreme. And that's to me is the essence. The beginning was all about digitization. The end was all about storytelling. And between there, somewhere there is a sweet spot, which is going to be effective. 30 years ago it was effective, and 30 years from now it will remain effective. I do not know, and I'll probably check with Bharat if he regards Donald Trump as a good storyteller. Disruptive, I'm sure, but is he a good storyteller? He takes facts, puts them out of context, and they will deliver with a lot of passion. Now, that's something that we have to really think about the destructive ability of storytelling. But that's always there. I'd like to thank, as we come to the end, the distinguished visitors and the dignitaries who came to be part of this conference, Bharat Adlani, Hanus Nasulu, and Stephen Ross. I'd like to thank the executives who are part of the various sessions here. They have a very busy schedule to take time out to come to the session. In some cases, from outside Karachi, I think is again indication of how committed they are to this event. I'd like to thank the sponsors who made this session possible. In some cases, they themselves were great practicing marketeers, and we also were privileged to hear from their experiences. So I'd like to thank the sponsors. I'd also like to thank you, the audience, who were throughout extremely interested. We are running over a bit over time, which is an indication not of poor management, but I think the great enthusiasm that was shown by a lot of audiences, both during the session and during the breakout session, the tea breaks, and lunch, as to the questions that you had and you wanted to ask the participants. I'd also like to thank the Marketing Association of Pakistan, especially its president, Mr. Ali Naqvi, and the Marcon organizer, the vice president of MAP, Mr. Imran Ahmed. Fantastic effort. It takes a lot of effort to put this thing together. And lastly, I'd like to thank Hamza Hashmi from Terrorist, who was the first man to organize this, and ensure that the entire conference goes fantastically well. So thank you all. Thank you once again for being part of the Marcon 2019 in Karachi, reimagining marketing in the digital age. Thank you for your time, and hope to see you soon at the next Marcon. Thank you.
I would like to request Mr. Ali Habib to stay on the stage and present the last shade of the day, which is to Master of Ceremonies of the day, Ms. Shamsa Belani.
Toughest job, the most agile job in Samsa was our Master Ceremony. Thank you. Thank you very much.
One last note, a parting note. Please provide us with your feedback. We need to hear from you, our members and our supporters, about how you felt about today, so that when we plan future events, we can hope to improve, because there's always room for improvement. and then do more of the things that you really enjoyed. Thank you. Khuda Hafiz. Good evening.
मेरा कार्ड नहीं है मेरे पास आउट ऑफ स्टॉक हो गया वो हॉस्पिटल
It is the last.